Hello and welcome to Quicksave Radio Stage 9. I am your host, Josh Boyles, as always, and I'm joined by Owen Connolly. How are you on this much less sweaty week, my friend?
Feeling a lot more comfortable. We pray, as the British do, we pray for sunshine all year, and then when it comes, we decide that we actually, I think we're all right.
Yeah, well, no,
It's
because
horrible.
I mean, there's nice heat. Like when you go to Greece and it's like a dry heat and it's just nice. You can just you sit under it, and it's lovely. But then when we get heat and it gets over like 25 degrees, it's just like humid and sweaty, and you walk outside for more than 5 minutes and you're just drenched in pit sweat. It's disgusting. Yeah, so welcome to stage 9. It's a couple of days later than we wanted it to be, but we've been not busy, but we're struggling to find a slot to record this. Really, it's been because obviously I'm back up home in Newcastle for the time being, living with my family, and it's been quite loud this week. So luckily, I've managed to find like a 3 hour slot where they've pissed off to Jedburgh or somewhere. So
Jedburgh.
yeah,
I thought that was someone on the X Factor.
it's like it's I think something on the Scottish border. I think it might actually be in Scotland. There's like a castle there that they've got to go and dick around in. I have no idea. Anyway, it would. I'm glad that we've got around to recording this because it would have been a shame to miss this week because this is the one week out of all of these like podcasts that we've done where I actually have some original content, where I've actually been out and like
Content.
content. If you want more of this content, make sure you absolutely obliterate that subscribe button on or follow
Just
button.
obliterate.
Absolutely mangle that subscription button, bruv. Yes, I've been to DoomCon. No, not DoomCon. QuakeCon last week. It's about a week ago now. I got hands-on access with Doom Eternal. Played the demo through a couple of times. I went to the press day on the Friday, and then I went to the public day on the Saturday and played all sorts of stuff. Went to a lot of talks. It was fantastic, if not incredibly warm. I did find it quite ironic that the week where Doom comes to Europe is also the week where the weather decides to emulate hell. I think it peaked at 40 degrees while I was down there, and it was disgusting. Although I did go swimming in the Thames, which was quite fun and very, very, very refreshing.
I mean, from what I saw of your Instagram, the fact that they had like pyrotechnics in there, a lot of computer equipment. Like, I am amazed that it all worked and it didn't just melt.
Well, some of it didn't. On the Friday when I was at the press day, I was playing Wolfenstein Youngblood on the PCs there, and first of all, we couldn't get like the two PCs to connect to each other, so then we had to move to a different setup, and then once we started like getting playing, every 5 minutes or so, my PC would just hard shut down and restart. And we'd have to like boot it back up again and then reconnect it and then it'd do the same thing. And we highly suspected that was because it was rather sweaty in there. Funnily enough, the press day seemed to be busier than the public day. I'm not quite sure if it probably wasn't a thing, and I was probably just paying more attention on the press day than I was the public day. But yeah, it was much warmer on the press day than it was the public day. Maybe they turned the AC on for on the Saturday. But yeah,
It's also the biomass. The biomass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, not to say anything against games journalists, but they're not all hot on sweat. There were some very lovely people there that I met and connected with, and it was a good time. So we'll talk more about my hands-on experience with Doom Eternal. We've also been playing Wolfenstein Youngblood. I'm reviewing that for the National Student. I should also say that the National Student got me my tickets to go down to Doom Eternal and play early as well. So I'll have my words like preview up for Doom Eternal on the National Student in the next few days or so. I think I've sent it off to my editor, so that just needs to be edited and published as far as I'm aware. Okay, let's get into the news. There's not very much this week, I don't think. We've missed out a couple of things from the last few days that I'll roll over to next week, just because I'm like away in Ireland for a few days. So we'll save that, all the Call of Duty Modern Warfare stuff and Ninja moving to Mixer and all that bollocks over. We'll save that for next week. All right, so Nintendo is now going to fix Joy-Cons for free if you're in the US or just anywhere that isn't Europe, apparently. So this comes after Joy-Con drift was widely reported. I think there were some people at Vice who were like had it. They like reported it. Um, Joy-Con drift is obviously, if you don't know, where when you like don't touch your Joy-Con sticks, they sort of drift in a direction as if they're being pushed on ever so slightly, and it can get obviously really annoying when you're trying to play games that require precise movement, like Mario or any sort of shooter. So previously, Nintendo sort of denied any of these issues that it was even a thing. That was, of course, until someone issued a lawsuit against them, and suddenly their ears perked up, and we're like, "Oh shit, we should probably do something about this." So Nintendo of America has now updated their terms to repair Joy-Cons for free, and they are issuing refunds to any previously paid repairs that anyone's sent them in for and paid for. However, Eurogamer reached out to Nintendo Europe, and apparently they don't know anything about this, and the terms have not changed in the UK yet. So I don't know. What do we have to do in the UK to get free Joy-Con repairs? Do we have to sort of like pretend? Well, have you had any issues with Joy-Con drift? I should say, because we both have Switches.
Well, I think I always have my Joy Cons connected to the console, so I don't know if it's a wireless. I don't know. I haven't experienced the problem, so I don't actually know what it feels like. I don't know if it feels like input lag, or if it feels like just as you said. Well, I mean, it's drift,
It's
and I
drift,
haven't
so
really.
yeah.
I don't feel like I've experienced that in a controller before. I mean, the closest I've experienced is my old Xbox 360 controller. The B button was due to many years of very hard gaming was welded into the controller, just like clogged with shit.
Clogged with all
So
that
to
all
actually,
that Dorito dust and Mountain Dew that you used to
yeah,
chug. Yeah,
all my gamer fibers.
that's
So
the one.
it was just stuck in there, and it wouldn't like respond. That's as close as I can. So are they saying it's a hardware problem or is
It
it the
is, yeah.
wireless aspect?
I mean, they've not actually. Don't think that they've disclosed like what's causing this. It's definitely not. Well, I mean, even if your Joy Cons are connected to the Switch, like they still the controller inputs are still sent wirelessly. It's still Bluetooth. The only like connection there is charging. So if yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a wireless problem or not. But I think some people have been saying that they've been able to fix it themselves if you like take apart the controller and just sort of fiddle bits around and put some WD-40 on it. But that
That's not for me.
yeah, no, I
I'm
mean
not doing that.
if you've ever looked at like how to because so there's some people like change the shells on their Joy Cons. There's some really cool ones that like people have made them look like old NES controllers and like they've put the see-through
Oh, I love the see-through ones.
yeah, the
Absolutely
shell,
classic.
yeah, they're so cool.
I saw a guy yesterday on Twitter who'd modded his on the more of the software side. He'd modded it to run Android, the latest Android,
Oh damn, yeah, that's pretty
and
cool.
he was yeah, but he was running emulators on it from all Nintendo from all Nintendo generations. So he was playing Super Smash Bros. Melee with a friend on his Switch,
Oh damn. Well,
which
say
is
that.
insane.
Yeah, that's more of a like like the Switch, like the main unit hardware. But in terms of Joy Cons, like if you've ever tried to take those things apart, they are fiddly as anything. And I think Sean Bell on the computer game podcast was talking this week about like he's like changed the shell on his, so he's like pretty confident with like removing it now. But he was also saying that it's not like when you take apart a Joy-Con, it's not like most electronics where you just sort of screw things as tight as they can and then like just sort of leave it. Apparently, you've got to like adjust certain screws to certain tensions and then sort of fiddle about with it, and then you'll think it'll be fine for a few days, and then you'll realize later that one button isn't like working properly, so you have to unscrew it all and fiddle around with the screws again. So if you want to like fix this yourself in some sort of like DIY way, um, that's not really like for most 99% of people that's probably not going to be an option, so sending it to Nintendo is like the only real way. They've not mentioned, I think, even if like your warranty is void in the US, like they'll still like they're not checking to make sure that like warranties are still in thing if you've like paid for a repair. They're just like they're checking that you've paid it and then like just refunding you as far as I'm aware.
Well, that sounds about right. I mean, if they were doing that, we would have heard about that by now.
Yeah, exactly. So but I mean, yeah,
I
this is
just
like
I this echoes the problem with the Xbox 360's Red Ring to me a little bit.
that. Yeah, some I
It's
heard
nowhere
someone.
it's nowhere near as it's not as drastic because the red ring was literally your console's dead. Goodbye.
Yeah,
But
I
this
mean, at least
is
you can spend like you can buy replacement controllers for 60 quid if you're that
yeah,
desperate.
and at worst you can put up with the drift. You
I
know.
mean, drift is pretty. It's. I mean, it's not subtle. Like it's not as if like, oh, it just slowly moves up. I mean, because
Okay.
yeah, it's like it's constantly moving. It's if like one of imagine if one if imagine you were playing like Modern Warfare on the Xbox, but your aim constantly moved a little bit to the right permanently.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
unplayable. Okay.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I mean the UK terms haven't changed. I mean I'll obviously update next week if they have, but as far as we're aware, these haven't. Like you still have to you still have to pay to have your Joy Cons repaired in the UK, which is a bit shit. Yeah, I mean I haven't had any issues with mine. I mean I don't play with my Joy Cons that much actually. Because I've got a Pro controller and I mostly play docked. So yeah, but obviously it's a huge pain in the ass if you've got drift on your Joy Cons.
Well,
Yeah.
now that I mention it, and I've got the Switch in my hand at the moment. When you kind of look at the sticks, they they do like it's not like pure hardware drift. Like they do snap back into place quite nicely. Mine are fine. Like I had a problem on old Xbox 360 controllers where the sticks weren't that snappy. I guess is the word.
Mm,
Like they would sometimes get stuck in positions that wasn't neutral.
yeah.
Like just kind of leaving them alone. And I guess that's what I thought this was about.
I mean,
Um,
I think it mostly is hard. I don't think it'd be a software issue. It doesn't sound like it'd be a software issue thing,
yeah.
but it's definitely a hardware. I think it's just because the Joy Cons are so fiddly because they're so tiny that
I just yeah.
I guess kind of like like the MacBook Pro keyboards because they brought in that butterfly switch and then people were getting specks of dust underneath them and then that was fucking everything up. I reckon it's something similar to that where it's just like other someone I think it was also Sean Bell pointed out that like quite maybe it's just sort of making it so. I mean, the Switch has been out for 2 years now, so this is like the third summer that it's been through. And
Mm.
he was wondering if maybe the heat or like the intense, like the heat wave, was causing bits to like maybe move it, like maybe melt and mold inside the.
That's it's definitely possible actually that
But then again, say we had hot summers for the last 2 years as well, so I mean, it's not like it could be. I mean, who knows? Um,
yeah. I mentioned earlier that it did kind of echo the um, red ring thing before. I hope that it doesn't echo it completely because the problem with the red ring was you could send it off to Microsoft and they would fix it,
mm.
and then most of the people who got theirs back fixed, quote unquote, got the red ring again within like a month.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's too early to say whether, people who've sent them off to be fixed and then brought them back. Because, like, Nintendo aren't, like, disclosing what's actually wrong with them. For all we know, they could just be, like, taking them out of the package, blowing on them a bit, and then sending them back, right?
Yeah.
We don't actually know. It'd be quite interesting to see if the Switch Lite has these issues as well, because if you get Joy-Con drift on that thing, then you've got to send the entire console back. It's not like you can just, get by with a wired controller for a bit.
Well,
Because,
if it is the case, let's like. I mean, good for Nintendo that they haven't released it yet, because
yeah.
I think every time I see one of these things happen, or any company that makes any sort of hardware has to do a recall of units, that's my like. I don't know. That's my number one fear. I think
Yeah.
just like imagine being a hardware company or even a software company. There was I forget which podcast this was on, but I was listening to this recently. There was the game Myst.
Yeah. Like the point
Myst
and
is
click adventure
essentially
one.
yeah, very early puzzle PC game that was really cool. But Myst had a problem, and this was before the days of patching. Like
Mm.
there was no internet patching. Like it was very unlikely you were even using the internet on your PC. Um, there was a problem where if you saved the game incorrectly, it would corrupt literally your entire hard drive,
Oh shit.
and your PC would break. Like it would
That's quite an important
break.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had to recall all copies of Myst, and then when it was put back on the shelves, it said new 1.1 version. Like, like that's what patching used to look like. Every
Oh, can you
every game
imagine?
that was ever released had to be recalled, and then they had to make 1.1, like new disc, new everything, and then put it back on a shelf. And now it's like a 2 meg update.
Can you
Like,
imagine how fucked Battlefield 5 would be if you had to send the copy back every time it needed a patch?
well, Dice
That's
might actually
sorry
maybe
if
they take
for
more care before they release their game.
for long-term
I
fans
wonder.
of this podcast that I think we should start a drinking game for this podcast for
Do
like
you
take a
think it's
shot every time
nine?
I dunk on Battlefield 5.
Do you think it's 9 podcasts in a row?
It could well be. If someone's out there who's listened to these, God forbid, like get out and do something if you listen to these podcasts, man. No, yeah, if yeah, I reckon I probably dunked on Battlefield 5 like at least once an episode. Oh my god, I think
But it's so easy.
I think after the Modern Warfare announcement, like last the other day, like the previous like marketing or PR manager for EA Dice, who's like moved on to something like esports and stuff, tweeted out, yeah, Modern Warfare's doing some really cool shit. Dice need to step it up and actually focus on gameplay, less of this like visual like warfare bollocks. I'm like, if the ex like PR manager of EA is saying that, I mean, you know something's up. Sorry, that's a complete tangent away from the Switch. But yeah, speaking of other Switch news, we'll move on to the other stuff. Let's do the Outer Worlds for yeah, Outer Worlds. Sorry, I keep getting confused between Outer Wilds, and I will eternally do that. It's going to be really interesting when we get to the Game of the Year shows, like for the end of this year, because the outer, from what I've heard, the Outer Wilds is like a Game of the Year contender, and the Outer World is highly anticipated as a Game of the Year contender as well. So that's going to
I
be
want. I
confusing.
pray. I pray for some sort of on-stage envelope-based goof.
Oh yeah, like the oh when was it? Was it the Oscars? Was it what film was it? Was it
It was the Oscars, yeah.
what film was it?
Was
Was
it?
it
Was it La La Land?
oh I think it was, yeah.
I think it
And
was
then
La La Land that did
no
either
that
did win or was supposed to win.
they did they got called out for La La Land, but I think it was actually Moonlight or something like that.
Ah, okay.
That rings a bell.
But I mean, that would be excellent. Also, we'll have played Modern Warfare by then, so they'll have to like deal with
Oh my
the
god.
titling of that we discussed last week.
What I can't even remember what we agreed on. Was it Modern Warfare 4?
Four, yeah, Modern
Okay.
Warfare 4. It's Modern Warfare
Okay.
4.
I'll have to make a note of that somewhere because I'll forget it by next week. Anyway, The Outer Worlds is in a fairly surprising announcement coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's being developed by Virtuos, who ported Dark Souls and LA Noire to the platform, which are, as far as I'm aware, notoriously stable ports. I might save this. I'll talk. Yeah, no, I'll save that for a bit later. Sorry, making mental notes. There's no release date yet, but it's going to launch soon after the global launch on 25th of October, which is like PC, PS4, Xbox One, all of that good stuff. This surprises me a lot because from what I've seen of like all the trailers and stuff, maybe it's just that they've had issues streaming them from like E3 and other press events, but the trailers for the Outer Wilds seem to run at like 4 FPS. I don't know if that's just my experience, but
Yes, there's something dodge about this
But
game.
then again, there was
This
something like there was a big press event. I think like this week or like recently, and all the gameplay like embargo was yesterday, I think, and that gameplay looked pretty smooth. Like it was recorded at 1440p, 60 FPS. There's some up on Eurogamer and a load of other outlets as well, and that seems to run fairly smooth. So I don't know. Maybe the like I don't know. The aesthetic really reminds me of like the Bethesda Creation Engine, which is probably why maybe it's just me playing a mental trick on myself that like that game can't run like that game can't look like Skyrim and run well. That's like the paradox of Bethesda games. Um, so I don't know. Like the previous ports that they've done, Dark Souls and LA Noire, as far as I'm aware, have been fairly stable. The Switch is like I think we're consistently surprised at like how much black magic the Switch can work. Especially because I think the new Switch Lite's getting like a reworked Tesla, not Tesla, Tegra X1 chip or whatever it's called, like the Nvidia graphics chip mobile thing. Even if that's like ever so slightly faster, I'm not sure if the Outer Worlds is really a game that I would play on the Switch, even if I did own it.
Yeah,
On
I
there.
wouldn't. This to me seems like a port that brings it to an audience that wouldn't otherwise be able to access it. This isn't like an option. Like
Yeah,
a lot of games release cross-platform, and buying it on the Switch is a viable option, um, despite its graphical
like
drawbacks
shortcomings.
because
Yeah,
because of its portability. This just seems like if you don't have a PC or a console and you primarily game on Switch, then you can buy it on the Switch.
that's fair
I don't know
enough.
how. I mean, the Switch Black Magic is very impressive. I think it all comes down to a lot of visual culling
Yeah,
and
and I mean, when you're
stuff
playing
like
on a
that.
7-inch screen anyway, like it doesn't. I guess if you're playing it, I mean, if you're buying this on Switch, you're either buying it obviously because you don't own any other platforms, or because you want it portable. And if you're playing it portable on a 7-inch screen, I think you can get past a lot of the visual shortcomings. If I'm honest, I mean,
Yeah,
I actually I've just remembered that The Witcher 3 is coming to Switch, and again, I think I'll use the same argument I said for that. I'm not going to buy it on Switch. I already have it on PC. I love the game, but if this brings The Witcher or The Outer Worlds to a brand new audience, excellent, because it means I can gush about Geralt and his. I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying to
and
think of
he's
something
Geralt
witty.
and his Geralt and his lads.
Geralt and his lads, fucking Zoltan and Dandelion, um, having a meme.
Well, it's good because a Nintendo console is like notoriously the most successful RPGs, are JRPGs. Like with the release of Fire Emblem
Mm,
this week, things like that. Western RPGs, like a traditional Western RPG, either in the top-down format, like the original Fallout's or XCOM,
mm,
or more modern RPGs like Fallout or Skyrim, aren't really something that the Japanese market has ever had. That's not something that they've got their own sort of kind of stuff. Like the West has mimicked a lot of JRPGs and turned them into Western games. Japan hasn't done it otherwise.
mm.
So it's
Well,
interesting for me. I
Dark
mean,
Souls.
not. I mean, not. I mean, not to the extent that we have. Like, there's
Yeah,
no Japanese equivalent to Skyrim, like or Fallout.
yeah, I get what you mean. I was going to say like Dark Souls is the obvious because that is a JRPG westernized, isn't it?
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much.
But
Yeah.
I think, but like you say, it's bringing it to a bigger audience, so it's cool. I hope that the Western RPG and what that can bring um, finds a fan base in the East as much as JRPGs have found a fan base in the West.
Yeah, that's a fairly unique standpoint. Speaking of like surprise announcements for Switch, the classic Doom trilogy is now on the Switch. I'm really annoyed that I didn't see this coming because I was at the QuakeCon press day on the Friday, and I was like walking around, and they had all sorts of setups. They had like an L bit, they had a Rage 2 bit at the back, Wolfenstein, and obviously like a big Doom bit in the middle, and then next to the Doom bit, like between Doom and Wolfenstein, there was a setup of Switch terminals, like where you could just stand and like grab a Switch controller, put on a headset, but there was nothing on it. And I was sort of like, well, because there was a couple other like Switch stations like around the booths. There was a couple over by the Elder Scrolls bit, which I clocked pretty early that would be for Blades. I got to play Blades on Switch actually. It was very good. I don't have a lot to say about it. But yeah, and then there was this massive row of switches that were like connected to monitors but weren't turned on, and I was like, I saw it on the Friday. I was like, I wonder what that's for because like there's no market. There was a piece of paper that said like more on this tomorrow or something like that, like something really cryptic. And then we went into the keynote and they announced that the classic Doom trilogy is coming to Switch, and I was like, shit, that's of course that's what the lineup of the massive row of Switch consoles is out there like set up for. And sure enough, I turned up on the Saturday and Doom 1, 2, and 3 were playable on the show floor. So yeah, it's the original trilogy, so it's 1, 2, and 3, and they're really cheap actually. I've picked up 1 and 2. I'm not so fussed about 3, but 1 and 2 are £4 each, and the third one is £8. Um, and as far as I'm aware, I've played a little bit of 1. I've not. I touched 2 on the show floor, but I've not played it properly on my own Switch yet. Um, but they're pretty good. I mean, they've been ported, like the controls have been adjusted. So I actually played. They had a setup of classic uh, Doom setups like on old consoles, like the PS1 and a load of other old ones that I'm really sorry, but I'm going to show my age and not know the names of them. Um, and it took me a while to get because I played them before on the press day while I was waiting for my appointment, and I couldn't figure out the controls. I kept trying to use the sticks, and I was like, "Why isn't this working?" And then I was like, "Oh, because the original PS1 controller didn't have joysticks." Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and also it's Doom. You can't look up and down.
yeah, exactly. Oh, it did my head in. I was like, "There's a guy up there, but I can't look up. How do I shoot him?" And then I realized, oh, the aim just sort of adjusts for you. Like, what's going on? Really showing my age there. But yeah, it was a learning experience. Put it that way. But yeah, it's been updated on the Switch so that you can use the sticks to move and aim. There's like it's pretty intuitive. There's like a sprint button. Yeah, it's got like local multiplayer that I've not tried yet, but I'm really interested because like I've heard legendary things. I feel Doom couch co-op multiplayer was what like the not olden day equivalent, but like the original equivalent to us playing Halo on Xbox Live.
Oh
That's
yeah,
like what people used to do.
that was it was Genesis like for that.
Yeah,
I feel like the real Halo moment was Quake 2.
yeah, and like GoldenEye, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to play. I'm excited to play that re-release of Quake 2. It looks really good.
I've not touched it yet, but so yeah, they're
I guess you say £4 each for 1 and 2 is insane.
yeah, it's an absolute steal. Because I said while I was in the keynote, I was like, that's an insta buy, and I said it just like to be enthusiastic, and I was enthusiastic, but in my head I was thinking that's going to be like a 40 quid collection. I can't afford that. I've just spent £100 on train tickets to get to London. Um,
But the thing is, they could easily charge that, couldn't they?
they easily could. I'm surprised they didn't, to be fair. And then I got home and checked like on my Switch. I was like, what the fuck? They're 4 quid each. Gibby gibby. Like I want that. And then of course because they're like small as anything, they downloaded in about 5 minutes. I was a bit surprised. I don't know. Have you heard about it? Yeah, you have heard about this. The whole that you need to log into a Bethesda account in order to play them.
Hasn't this stopped now?
Well, okay.
This was a mistake, wasn't it?
They said it was bollocks to that. It's
Oh well, yeah, bollocks,
yeah.
like complete
So
bollocks.
you log on to Doom on the Switch, and it forces you to log into a Bethesda account, which is for like what's it called? Slayers Club. Sorry, I've got a Slayers Club mug next to me. I can't remember the name for it. Slayers Club is like a Doom portal thing where you get like in-game rewards for playing different Doom games and all like keeping up with all the announcements and stuff. So they say that it's for like the rewards for that sort of thing, but physically cannot access the game until you log into it or create a Bethesda account, which luckily you can do from the console if you don't already have one. But I to me it wasn't an issue because I know my Bethesda account details because I'd logged in to like play Youngblood this week, so that was just like on a case by case scenario. It didn't matter that much to me, and you only have to log in once. So it's like once you log in and then you just play every time you load it back up again. It's like it's so unobtrusive that I thought about it for 5 seconds and I was like, right, okay, that's out of the way. I don't need to bother about it anymore. Apparently, the internet completely disagrees with that. There's quite a huge. I hate to say internet outrage. But yeah, there was I think a few angry Reddit posts about this, I think it quickly became a meme. I've heard that it's a meme. I've not seen very many of them. I don't know if you have.
I mean, it was one of those memes that like it it lives and dies within a day.
Yeah, exactly.
It was basically just a bunch of people uh, starting up any video game they could find, and then cutting to this title requires a Bethesda.net account to play in whatever font, or in whatever tone matched the game.
Okay,
There was some
right.
quite impressive editing going on, as meme makers often do.
Yeah,
Managed to create very convincing looking things in a quicker period of time. I
yeah.
just don't know what the point of it is. Like, why? Why did they think that you'd need to do that?
I
I
mean,
feel like we've kind of got out of that a little bit in recent times. Where I feel like there were so many games back in the day um, where you'd start them up, even on like 360. You'd start them up, and it was like, "Hey, we've got this like extra website thing that you've never heard of. Can you sign into this, please?" And you'd go, "No," and then it would go forever, and you wouldn't know that it even exists.
yeah,
But they'd all have them. All of them had one. Like SSX. like the remake had like a like it was like ssxlive.com sign in for like exclusive things, and there was nothing there. Like it was completely pointless. I don't know why I did it, but every single game had
I
one,
still don't understand
and
what
like,
shift codes are in Borderlands. It keeps banging on about them every time I load up a new Borderlands game. I'm like, I don't care.
well, shift codes, shift like yeah. I don't know what shift is. I mean, shift like I mean it makes sense. It's gearbox, right?
Yeah.
Gearbox make it, and then it's shift, as in shifting the gearbox.
Oh my!
But shift is like a diff.
I've only just made that
Did you not get
connection.
that?
I've only just made that connection. Thanks for that.
Well, it's funny because so have I.
Okay, so that could be complete bollocks then.
Well, I mean, it sounds right, doesn't it?
It sounds
But I
about
don't
right.
actually
Yeah.
know what shift. I don't know what shift is. Shift could be Skynet.
It could, yeah. To be fair, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, speaking of Skynet, you said like why have they included this? That's probably it. Probably to track your data. Like that's probably what they
Track
want.
data and sell information.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they also like as I said, like in-game rewards for the Slayers Club. They like Bethesda came out and said like, oh, this was an accident. Like bollocks to that. Bollocks, was it a fucking accident? Like. No, you've called it an accident now because you realised, oh shit, people are upset. Maybe we shouldn't
I
have
mean,
done
the
that.
thing is, if I'd bought it and it said sign into Bethesda.net account, I'm the kind of person who would just go, all right.
Yeah, I do that every like I gen like I,
Like I don't complain about that kind of thing.
yeah, me
I
neither.
complain about it when it gets intrusive. When it gets intrusive, and I need to do it constantly. Like every time, if I have to do that every time I start the game, I'd be like bollocks to that.
Yeah, me too. But
But when I'm the first time I'm setting up a game, I don't care what it wants me to do. I don't care if it wants me to like start a relationship with it. I'll do it just so I can start it,
yeah,
and then I just want it to leave me alone.
is that how old your relationship? This is a great insight into your relationships. Relationships, Owen. If
Into my
that's
relationships. Yeah, it's like on the first date, I just lay out literally everything, and if they can like appease all of those things, that's it, and then we never speak again for 20 years.
oh dear me.
That's how it works.
Yeah, and it's like yeah, you log in once and then it never bothers you again, and to me that's fine. I'm really not bothered. I mean, I think as far going forward, I think they've removed it, so you don't have to log in if you don't want to. So again, that's fine. Like whatever, I'm not bothered. They're fantastic games, and you should absolutely play them. They're perfect on Switch as well. They run at like 60, as you would expect. They run at like 60 FPS, like no hiccups, loads dead quick. It's great. I've been really like I
Honestly,
was going to play them on the train home, but I didn't have any headphones, so
honestly, looking at this, it feels to me like this is less a business decision and more them continuing the meme that Doom must be on every single device.
yeah, that's true. I mean, you can play it on a
It's
fucking
probably what it was. Someone in the office probably thought, right, Doom isn't on the Switch yet, and this is making me very upset. Like it wasn't even a business like problem. Like have you
Gary.
seen it? Like
Oh fucking hell,
there's
Gary in admin. He wants Doom on fucking Switch, lads. Can we just do it? It can't be that
let's just do
difficult.
it. Yeah, like the things have got people have got Doom to run on Samsung fridges. They've got it to run on. Do you know the Mac bar, the Touch
Oh,
bar, and the new MacBooks? They've got it to run on that.
well,
They've got
it's
it.
funny. It's funny you should mention that because I've just been on Reddit on the Tesla Reddit, and I've just found that someone's managed to get Doom to work on their like center console in their Tesla.
Oh, excellent.
Um,
Oh, they've got someone programmed their Tesla to spool up the turbos to sound like E1M1.
yeah, I've seen that. That's class.
It's just like a fucking idiot, but it's brilliant.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anyway, yeah, it's Doom 1 and 2 for £4 each is an absolute bargain. Apparently three's like it's all right. I mean, I think people.
Three is really good. Three is a really good game. It was just it came out at a time which was like it was cross generation. New kind of gritty shooters were being released, and it wasn't really the like Doom had kind of gone out of it had gone out of style a little bit, like that kind of arena style crazy shooter like Doom and Quake and Painkiller, I think it was,
Yeah,
that had gone sort of out of style, and it was more kind of gritty like modern shooters. But they wanted to make a new Doom because, as we've seen with Doom 2016, it's got a lot of clout, and when you make a good game right, it really works.
yeah. I
Because
mean,
it's got that name behind it. And Doom 3 was a great game. I think it just wasn't liked as much because it wasn't. Doom as people knew it.
I mean, you say Doom as people knew it, but I think that's another thing that I think's been brought up with going back and playing the trilogy. Now it's on Switch. Is that Doom 1 and 2? Even though it has like a time, it has like a par timer. It sort of it emphasizes that you're supposed to play it quickly, but it's actually like quite terrifying. I think Doom's actually supposed to be more of a horror franchise than people give it credit for, and I think Doom 3 was leaning into that, like the original
Mm.
concept of that it was supposed to be a horror game rather than this fast paced run and gun like power fantasy, which it's. And personally,
It
I'm
was
like,
halfway.
uh,
It's halfway between them. Like that, there are certain horror games that also serve as power fantasies, and they're very kind of. That's a very niche genre. Like Alan Wake was like that a little bit.
speaking of Alan
Like you're
Wake,
actually
that's on
pretty
I think did we talk about
epic.
this last
Yes,
week?
that is. No, we didn't. That was on Epic. That's on Epic Game Store this week,
Is it this
and
week?
For Honor's free as well.
Excellent. And I was
Yeah,
gonna.
it's
I think we had a conversation about it. It might have been off the podcast where I said that I've never played Alan Wake, and then I saw the other day that it's on the Epic Store this week, so I might have to give that a down.
I know
Actually,
we had a conversation. I remember the conversation that you'd never played Alan Wake, but we didn't talk about Epic Game Store.
okay, all right, got you. Fair enough. Anyway, yeah, if you want
But
to,
yeah, it's like that. It's Doom 3 is like it is genuinely really good, and it's like I know what you mean about the kind of horror element. I think it's the I think what happened was Doom 1 was sort of a horror game, kind of akin to 90s action films that had like that kind of gory, tense aspect to them.
hmm,
You can very much see that's where it's grounded in. And then you can see as time went on and the genre started to develop, and you started to get things like Quake 2 and Quake 3, Doom 2. It's like, yeah, people are realizing that we can make a sort of 90s. I mean, obviously in the 90s they're not trying to make a 90s game.
yeah,
It's just a
exactly.
modern game, and then but you know what I mean. Like we make this bombastic metal, like gory shooter
Hmm.
that like kid like young young adults are gonna fucking love and play for hundreds of hours, which they did. So that's kind of what it leads into. I think you're right about how they wanted to be a horror game, then it turned into something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. To like, I mean, I'll talk about Doom Eternal later. I fucking love how it's just this mad power fantasy, and we'll also talk about Wolfenstein Youngblood, how it goes for the same thing and fails in many aspects. One thing I will say about Doom 3 is that even because I haven't played it on my own console because I don't own it, but I did play it on the show floor, and I played it for about 10 minutes. And funny that I tried starting a new game, and the attendant that was behind me was like, "Don't do that." Even he said like the intro is half an hour long and really boring, so just don't bother. Just load up this like other save, and I did that, and I could only play for about 10 minutes, even though I was standing up, and like had like free movement. It was like the place was fairly well air conditioned to be fair. The head bob in that game made me feel very ill after about 10 minutes of just like standing up and playing it on like a big TV as well. So I can't even begin to imagine playing that on a small Switch screen in the back of a moving car. Um, so yeah, just warning on that. But yeah, if I mean, you can't argue, it's cheap as chips. So if you're a Doom fan, go for it. Right, Owen's going to take over for the Overwatch changes and the new Sigma character because I know fuck all about this. So take it away.
It's Sigma then.
It's Sigma.
So
Who is Sigma?
Sigma is the latest character to the Overwatch lineup. He is a tank, thank God. A tank who looks genuinely fun to play. He's from the Netherlands. I think every Overwatch character is from a different country by this point, except for I think three are from America because that's very American, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
let's make our design philosophy that these characters come from all different backgrounds from all over the world, and every new character is from a different location. But we're gonna have three Americans.
Who's the third one? Soldier, McCree. Who's the third one? Is it Winston?
Soldier Ash.
Ash. Oh yeah, of course.
So Sigma is a astrophysicist from the Netherlands who went into geostationary orbit to conduct experiments to do with gravity and black holes, and suffered a blackout and woke up basically with what I can only describe as like paranoid schizophrenia.
That's what it looks like
Like
from the
he's
trailer.
yeah, he seems to have multiple personalities. He's very he's very paranoid, and he's basically going a little bit insane, mad scientist style.
Yeah,
And that trailer was really good.
the animated
I
one.
really like, yeah,
Yeah,
the like origin story one.
it was
Like
pretty cool.
normally, I like Blizzard are good for their big cinematic 3D animated shorts. Like I love those, and I mean I think the origin stories are cool, but usually they're just kind of filler lore. This one was really good.
It
I
was,
really
I
enjoyed it.
think, yeah, it was super different because it was like it felt like the tone was very off for Overwatch. Usually, it's like quite science fictiony or whatever. But this felt very sort of almost. I feel like he feels like you could pick him out of Overwatch and drop him in a Dishonored setting and he'd fit in
He's very
perfectly.
Dishonored, yeah. He's got that very square jaw, that
Yeah,
like he's got that square jaw, that long nose, that sort of look
yeah, sort of
that someone in the
overemphasized.
yeah in the Dishonored universe might have. Something which is kind of interesting about his character, that someone pointed out on Reddit, I think it was that the the concept of him is that now he has this sort of understanding of like physics and like gravity due to the accident. Like he understands things more than he should, and that's making him kind of scared of everything.
That's quite a meta
Um,
commentary. Yeah.
so throughout the entire trailer, there's a piece of music playing, and I don't know the name of the piece of music, but it's a very famous piece of music because it's one of the only like famous classical pieces that has no time signature.
Oh right, that's pretty
And
cool.
that's his theme. That's
Yeah.
his theme in game. That like when you pick Sigma in game, he like conducts his hand in the air, and that bit of music plays.
Oh
Like
sweet.
he's a really cool character. Like um, the characterization in Overwatch has been kind of lacking with their past two heroes. Like Baptiste is probably the worst hero they've ever made, character design wise. Like he's very dull to me. Like there's nothing really to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I know what you mean.
he's kind of dull. I like I mean, even the way he plays is kind of boring as well. He was kind of just there to be another support. I like him, but he's kind of I feel like they dropped a ball. They dropped the ball with him a bit. And then speaking of balls, Hammond, they went too far the other way. Like
Oh,
it's a hamster then.
don't you talk shit about
I
my boy.
love Hammond, right? I met like I if I have to play tank in Overwatch, which is pretty much every game, because I say I fill, and then two DPS get picked, two supports get picked, and then one guy's like fine, and then I go fine. So I'm pretty much always playing Hammond. Um, but for some reason they've decided to call Hammond Wrecking Ball, and they refuse to change his name to Hammond, even though
Hammond's a far
even
cooler
in
name.
game yeah, in game when the pros are playing, they call him Hammond.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a bit silly.
who's who's gonna who's gonna say wrecking ball?
That's
That's too
far too
long.
many syllables especially for an esports caster to like say.
Yeah, like one of the best things about I mean with these hero games and MOBAs as well, characters are specifically designed so they can be easily called out.
Mm.
Um,
Sigma's pretty easy
so
though.
oh yeah, Sigma's very easy to call out. So he's got kind of a unique, which is something which I really like that they did in the early days of Overwatch, where a lot of the characters were very, very different, and Baptiste was kind of one of Baptiste and Ash specifically. I mean, I love Ash for her character. Her playstyle is just a slightly different McCree.
Mm. Sort of
Um,
sit a bit further back.
yeah, it's slightly different McCree with Bob, but we love Bob,
Bob.
so it's fine. Bob. So he does change. Is very much his own guy.
How
So,
does he change up the meta? So like what abilities does he have?
well, he's got. So there's two what we would call barrier tanks in Overwatch right now. There's Orisa and Reinhardt. Uh, Orisa is getting insane amounts of play because right now it's something called the bunker meta, where you sort of just put the Orisa shield down and then you know the ability that Orisa uses to suck people in?
Yeah.
You have a Roadhog and you time it with the Roadhog so when you suck people in, the Roadhog goes for hooks
Yeah.
and tries to get free kills off that.
Huh.
They wanted to do like Widow, like you can do Widow shots with it, but Widow's just a bit less reliable.
Mm.
And that had kind of been one of the metas that was just constantly being used. It wasn't being used in pro play because pros know how to get around it, but in kind of just general casual ranked games, it was very hard to beat because you had to like communicate properly, and it was very easy to play as well. He completely fucks this up, which is brilliant. Like you can tell when you look at him, he's been specifically designed to make sure this meta goes away. Um, and there's another reason that's going to change Bunker as well that I'll talk about later. But Orisa puts a shield down and it stays there, right?
Yeah.
And if it breaks, she can put another one down. Reinhardt stands there with his shield, and which means he gets a much bigger shield. But once it's gone, it's gone. He doesn't get another one. Sigma, on the other hand, projects a barrier out, which is slightly smaller than Reinhardt's, and you'd think you'd have to keep it there to use as a barrier like Reinhardt, but no. You send it out, you block a certain amount of damage, and then you recall it. That's what it's about. It's about sending it out, recalling it, sending it out, recalling it.
Mm.
Um, because it's got a certain amount of health. Like you don't send it out, and then when you bring it back, when you send it out again, it doesn't have full health. It's like Reinhardt's.
Oh, okay. Right.
Like it takes a certain amount of damage, and then once you bring it back, it has to recharge itself.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the role he fills. He fills a very like I'm up front and I am taking damage and I am tanking damage for people.
So can
So
he
he's my kind of tank.
can he like throw the barriers like up in the air and stuff because it's like sort of
Yes,
kinetic, right? Okay.
he so he can project them in different. He can project them in different directions, which is why he's going to be so good against this meta because Roadhog can. Orisa goes for the suck in, Roadhog goes for the hook, and then Sigma can just go, no,
Yeah. No. Fuck off. Just block all
fuck,
that.
yeah, fuck that, which will be really nice. His main form of attack are two gravitational orbs that he has in his hand. It's a very unique weapon because you sort of throw it and it has a very short range and it bounces off the environment once, so
Yeah.
you can kind of aim it around corners. But it's like a two-shot burst, and then you have to reload. So it's like 1-2
He's
reload,
clearly not damaged
one
then.
two
Yeah.
reload. No, but it they do like 70 damage each. They're actually
Oh,
pretty
okay.
good damage, but they're hard to hit. They're pretty hard to hit.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of his primary means of attack, just so he's able to put some damage out.
Yeah.
And they are quite fun to use. You can get some cheeky like hits around corners with them.
Yeah.
Um, something that I really like about him is that he's got what I would call a deflect ability that other characters have. Like Zarya can bubble herself and it deflects everything, and she gets more damage. Genji can deflect projectiles. He's got an ability called Kinetic Grasp, where he puts his hand up and he forms a black hole with it, and all projectiles that are incoming, and it has to be a projectile. If it's a beam, it won't count.
Yeah.
All projectiles get sucked into the black hole, and then whatever the damage value he sucks in gets converted into shields for himself.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So he's got 400 HP, and he can suck in up to 400 damage of shields. So he can, and it's like a Lucio beat barrier. It's like one of those ones that slowly decays.
Yeah, that's kind of like Zarya, I guess, with the like bubble shields.
Yeah, so he can like stand up front, suck in loads of damage, and then he can get up to like 800
It's
shields.
gonna
So you're
ruin
like,
any Junkrat mains out there.
yeah, mine.
Yeah.
So it's like so it's like 400. So when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's 400 HP. He's going to be an off tank. No, no, no. He's all
Got
like
800. Yeah.
yeah, it's basically 800 or an average of 600 if you're playing him properly.
Yeah.
He's got another throwaway ability, which is kind of just like a utility ability. I think it's called a Christian. I don't think I put the name down
I
here, but
don't see it in the
it's
notes,
something
but
like yeah, it's something like that, where basically he like takes a chunk of rock out of the ground and basically kamehamehas it at someone, and it like knocks them back. It's like a brief stun,
yeah.
like it's not like a McCree flashbang stun. Like it knocks you back and like just kind of it disables you for a bit. And I think it can like interrupt any like channeled abilities and stuff. It's
Mm,
just like an extra thing to throw,
mm.
really. Um, and the thing I'm really excited is with most characters is his ultimate. His ultimate is really cool. Basically, he summons a big disc on the like he when you use his ult, he flies into the air and he gets full flying control, the same way like an ulting Mercy would.
Yeah.
And then he's able to put like a radial disc on the ground, which is like a targeting surface, and once he fires that at the ground, any characters caught within that disc are propelled into the air and they have no gravity.
Oh yeah, and they're like that. So they're like held there up in the air. Like, can they still shoot, or are they just sort of like up in the open?
They can still shoot, but they can't use movement abilities. They're very much stuck.
Yeah, like sitting
Like they're
ducks.
stuck. Like they're
Excellent.
stuck there. Like they can move kind of slightly, but they're very vulnerable to like gunfire. And then after a certain time, I think it's like 3 seconds, he slams them down to the ground, and they'll take 50% of their max health as damage.
Wow. Right. Okay.
So, so this is something I really like about it is that it's a max health ability.
Yeah.
So
So
this is
it
like
scales
it,
according to which like hero gets caught in
yeah.
it.
So if you let's say you caught a tracer and a roadhog in your ult, you bring the tracer up, you slam her down, she takes 75 damage. You slam the roadhog down, he takes 300.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty cool.
So it's pretty significant.
Mm.
Um, Sigma is a character that I can tell they've put a lot of work into. I'm very happy that it feels like there's been a new proper like main addition to the game.
Mm.
As like I saw Hammond and Baptiste, as I mentioned earlier, as a bit of a throwaway.
Mm.
Ash got her own full-on animated short, so she was really cool when she was added. The main difference with Sigma is that he'll be released along with the what is called the 222 roll lock
Mm.
update, which sounds complicated if you don't play Overwatch. It's not. Essentially, right now in competitive play and in quick play, you can play any combination of heroes that you like. If you want to play six supports, fine. If you want to play six DPS, fine. It's a terrible idea because you'll lose,
Yeah.
but you
But
can do it if
it's
you want.
possible, and there's not really like a
Yeah,
punishment for like because this is a big
there's
thing
no.
about because when it first came out there was a lot of people like reporting like abusing the reporting systems like, oh, this person played this hero when he was obviously should have switched to someone else, and Blizzard were like, well, that's not fair because people should be able to play what they want, like that that's sort of, and then they put it in like the in the reporting text, like you shouldn't report people just because they're not playing like a suitable hero. So this kind of doesn't go back on it but sort of enforces the like, right, this is how the meta should be. And I
It's a noble ideology, but that can only take you so far. You know, like I do respect Blizzard for saying, we want people to have the freedom to play how they want to play, and that force we shouldn't force a meta. We shouldn't force people to play specific things. They shouldn't be scared to like pick a certain hero because everyone's going to hate them and report them, and then they're going to get banned for it.
yeah.
That's not something that should happen. And League's the same. Like you can play any character in any role, and that's not reason for you to get banned. Uh, but I think this is kind of key in bringing a lot more structure to the game, where two tanks, two supports, and two healers has always been something which is recommended. And the only difference is when certain metas allow for changes like that. Like a few months ago when I wasn't playing, there was a meta called Goats, which was so called so that you literally picked three supports and three tanks and just head-butted the enemy team like a goat. You just
Yeah.
went, and that sounds horrible. That sounds terrible. I'm so happy I wasn't playing then. But now that sort of thing just can't happen. Like you're gonna have to play in a sort of a regimented way, and this is the thing that I feel like if it had happened very early in Overwatch's life cycle, people would have complained and say it was against the design philosophy. But now that people have played competitive for so long, and a lot of people might have fallen out of love with Overwatch, being frustrated with it, especially when we've all had the character who's playing Mercy, and then he decides his team is shit, and he goes and picks Torb. You know, like it happens. It happens
Yeah,
still. Um,
I think it
People
like
fall out of love with game.
I
Fall of, this update has really. I've seen a lot of people get renewed interest
I think
off this update.
a lot of something that might have paved the way for this that make people realize that actually playing any hero isn't necessarily fun would have been when did they bring in the team finder option where you could like search for pre-mades because that has an option where the person who like makes the pre-made to begin with can lock roles, so you can say like, right, I want two healers, I want two supports, and I want two tanks. And if you joined that pre-made, you were then locked into that like the role that you chose. And that, I mean, whenever I've played Overwatch, I've not played properly in about 2 years now. I don't think, not properly like competitively, at least 6 seasons. Um, but yeah, like whenever I did play, I used the team finder option because it was just far more fun. Because like as you say, it's the 2-2-2 meta was just far superior to sort of memeing around and
It took
having,
long. It took longer to find a game,
but the
but
quality was far better.
yeah, as people in high ranks will tell you, they don't care about how long it takes to wait for a game. They would rather wait 10 minutes for a good game than wait 5 seconds for a shit one.
Yeah, exactly. You're just wasting your time otherwise. So yeah, I think maybe like that whole system that's been in for a while now maybe paved them, like made people realize that actually T
I
T
think it was a
T's
test.
not, yeah,
Yeah, I think it
probably
was like
like
a
a,
test for it.
yeah.
Like
When's this coming
it was
in?
probably like a beta. It's coming in August 13th.
Excellent.
So this season is going to end early. I
Yeah,
think in the next couple of weeks.
it
So,
ends.
well,
I played yesterday and
well,
it said 11 days left on it.
11 days, right? So yeah, so it'll end on the 13th, and then there's going to be a beta season for Roll Lock, which will last about 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're going to do season one again.
Oh, are they? Oh, excellent. The,
So it'll be like it's Overwatch then
oh,
again.
yeah. Okay. So
So
you
I
get
think the
ranked.
final,
Sorry, I was going to
yeah,
add.
yeah,
Go
that's what
on.
I was going to mention next. Is that Roll Lock works differently than the old competitive system did. I mean, it's strange that it's been almost 3 years and it's taken them like a while to address this, but this is something that has been desperately wanted in League as well, where you now have different skill ratings per role that you're playing. So if you have to fill tank, or you just feel like playing tank, or you just feel like playing DPS, or just feel like playing support, that's not gonna affect your team anymore because your skill rating is tied to whatever role you play. So I could be like, I mean, I can just pull this out of thin air. I could be like a top 500 ranked support, and then a diamond tank, and then like a silver DPS. And then whichever one I queue for, I'm gonna get match made in a game that's suitable to my skill level in that rank, so I can
That's
play whatever I
fantastic as
want.
well because I think that was the main reason that people were buying Smurfs for like when it first came out because people would look at people's profiles and say, "Mate, you've got 700 hours on Reinhardt. Can you play Reinhardt?" But if you've played 700 hours of Reinhardt and you want to play something else for a change, you're like, "No, I want to like play some DPS." So now that
Yeah,
you have separate ranks for separate play styles, it sort of means that you maybe will get less Smurfs. Um,
there's also the problem where I would be playing a specific character, and someone would suggest, can you switch to this character so that we can deal with this character a bit better? But I would maybe never have played it.
yeah, exactly.
So I kind of get forced into doing something that I'm automatically not able to do. Like sometimes I'll fit when I go into games a lot, I'll say I'll fill, I'll just play whatever and let people work around me because I feel like that gives you more opportunity to have a consistent team comp.
Mm.
Um, and so like most of the time, two DPS get picked instantly, and then I'm left with tank or support, which is fine because that's what I play. But sometimes you'd get two tanks picked, two supports picked, and I'm like, oh shit, I've actually got to deal damage now.
Yeah.
And it was really scary. Like I was like, no, this isn't my thing. And I used to play DPS all the time, but then I thought, well, if I'm gonna try and improve my competitive like edge of this game, I'm gonna have to focus on one or two roles. So now when I have to pick DPS and I have to do it because we need damage, it's kind of nerve wracking for me because I just don't feel like I'm very good at it. Now I'll be able to just queue DPS and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I can work on three individual skill ratings, so I can go into my proper like try hardy support games and think, right, I'm sick of these now. I'm gonna go and play DPS, and then I'll just go to like a far lower rank, and I can play DPS games, and it's all balanced. And
Yeah.
you'll get a combined SR as well that'll contribute to a separate leaderboard.
All
So you'll
right.
get an
Cool.
average across the three. They're also making it now so that you'll earn more competitive points if you
Good.
place in all. If you place in all three, you'll get uh, a certain amount of competitive points. So if you place across all of them and play consistently across all of them
Mm.
and rank up across all of them, you'll get a lot more competitive points, which means a lot more golden guns.
You only have to
Uh,
play. You only have to do 5 ranked matches, 5 placement matches for
yeah,
each of the
5 placement
things now as well.
matches as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. I
so
mean,
it's a very significant update, which is probably the most major thing that's happened to Overwatch, I think, probably since launch,
yeah,
in
and
terms of
it's fantastic
how
because
much
I
it's
think
affected.
a lot of why people have maybe moved away from Overwatch, me included, is that Overwatch felt like it's lacked focus for a long time, and this brings the focus back onto like Blizzard are like right, they like we Blizzard have given everyone freedom, like to sort of shape how Overwatch feels and plays, and now they're like right, okay, this is how Overwatch should be played. Like where they're focusing everyone down into like this meta of competitive play, which I think is exactly what it needed.
I
Um,
feel like we even said this though back when Overwatch had just came out. We were the ones who were, really loving Overwatch and really, really getting into it. And when competitive was first released, I loved it because, to quote what we said on like what was it, insert name here. Remember
Possibly, I
that?
don't know. Yeah, I do remember that our
Yeah, it was
original
like
podcast.
we said we play competitive because competitive is Overwatch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do remember that actually, and yeah, and that's exactly what I mean. Like the meaning of what it means to play Overwatch competitive has been sort of shaped by the community, and now it feels like Blizzard's taking that back into their own hands and saying, actually, like, fair enough if you want to play like that, because the classic like how competitive is now, you can still play that in like an arcade mode now, like or
Yeah.
when this change comes. So if you really want to play like that, go play it. They're all like, yeah, whatever. Like,
Oh yeah, they never removed that. Like with the addition of workshop and custom games, like there's still so many plays. There's more ways to play. Ironically, now that the time that they've brought in restrictions is also the time where Overwatch is the most one of the more open, free like games ever. Like it's getting on like that Counter Strike custom server level where you
yeah,
play different modes and you're like, holy shit, how someone programmed this?
yeah,
There's
exactly.
crazy stuff in other modes. Um, it's it's genuinely really good, and I hope that it kind of gets a bit of its kickback
Yeah, I mean, I
because
might go back to it. I mean, I mean, we can probably move into the download discourse section of this now because you say you've been playing this over the last sort of couple of weeks.
yeah.
I mean, I think I really want to go back and try it. I mean, I think I'll give it a go. And if like the changes are enough to sort of pull me back in, then I'll play and get actually ranked this season. I think I've been ranked in about 6 or 7 seasons now.
Yeah,
Um,
Overwatch is difficult. That's the one thing I'll say though. Like it's because it's gone through such like a rough patch of the kind of player numbers falling off, except for when like a new hero is released or a new event is out. That's when the numbers will shoot back up. But on average, the numbers have been going down. The people who have stayed really stay.
yeah,
Like getting back into it like jumping into ranked games and jumping into deathmatch specifically. Deathmatch is another breed. Like the people in deathmatch are fucking good at that game, and it's kind of frustrating getting back into it.
Mm.
Like, because I'm like, oh, I'll just play some deathmatch to what? Oh, okay, I'm playing against Prophet. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
that kind of thing. Overwatch is it's a tricky game. But once you get back into it, it is worth it.
Yeah, maybe I'll
That's all
stream
I've
it.
got to say. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about Overwatch. I think like there's it is still probably my favorite multiplayer game like ever, and that's weird to say because of
Mm.
the kind of
I mean,
on
we
and
grew
off relationship I've had with it.
well
But
that and that we grew up with Halo, and I still herald that. Even though I've not played it in years, I still herald that as some of like that spawned some of my greatest gaming memories. That did.
yeah, I mean, I think I've got better memories of Halo. I just think looking at it as a game, I like Overwatch more.
That's fair
Like,
enough.
I think it's just because of the characterization and the kind of world it's in. Like,
Yeah,
Overwatch could be set. I mean, Overwatch could be the same game set in the Halo universe, and I wouldn't find it anywhere near as attractive.
that's true. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think I tried playing a match of Overwatch yesterday, but we just did quick play, and then Connor's PC melted, so we gave up.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah, I think I don't know what team I was playing against. Yeah, I was playing Lucio on Elios, and I think I got about 12 boop kills. I was just sort of
Ah,
memeing
good.
around. I was just
Ah,
memeing around,
ah,
like
the
waiting for
well.
Connor to
The
like
well, is it?
the well, and then that bit off to the right of the well, and then like that bit off to the right of the scaffold, like the construction bit. Honestly, it was so memey. It was ridiculous. Um,
Boop.
yeah, I haven't got anything else to say about Overwatch apart from that. I mean, little bit of other news that I haven't written anything for this, but I saw it yesterday on Twitter. Destiny, Shadowkeep, and New Lights, is it called? It's been delayed till the 1st of October from when it was supposed to launch and go free to play in
Good.
September. Which
That's
is,
good. I like a delay.
I
Delays
mean,
make me happy.
can you
Delay.
imagine? Yeah, exactly. Especially now that Activision aren't involved, because if Activision were involved, it probably would still have launched in September, and things would have been a mess. And then
And there'll be some
there'd be
very sleep deprived devs.
Reddit outrage. Yeah, so yeah, but whatever. I
Destiny
mean,
2 yet again fucks up. It would have been that shit again, wouldn't it?
yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of
I
glad
hate
that it's
everything makes another video.
exactly. Also because I think there's a lot of games coming out around September, October, and given that I keep saying I'm going to give Destiny 2 a go, and it's just another live service game, and I don't know,
I mean, that now
October
means
works better for me.
that when Destiny 2 launches, Borderlands is launching September 13th or October 13th?
September.
September. So, yeah, they're
Yeah.
screwed. I'm going to be playing that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. So Borderlands is then, Outer Wilds is then. What else? Doom's coming out in November. So I mean, it spreads it out a little bit more evenly with it coming out in October. But the fact that
Yeah.
it's a live service game will probably do itself a disservice. Again, say if I do end up getting back into Overwatch, that's another semi-live service game that I'll probably that I'll have on my plate. So yeah, that's just I'd say I didn't write anything for that news. I just remember I saw that on Twitter yesterday. Right, do we want to talk about Youngblood? Because we've both
It's
been playing
time.
this. It's time. Strap in, get yourself a drink. To be fair, I don't think the Youngblood section will be that long. The Doom Eternal section will be great because I'll gush about that till the cows come home.
Yeah, this
Um,
is good. We've started with Overwatch, which we're sort of neutral to positive on. We'll
yeah.
have a main course that is very overpriced and kind of just leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. And then we'll get onto the pudding.
To be fair, I don't think it's overpriced. So Wolfenstein Youngblood is the
Yeah,
new
it's not. That's the
Wolfenstein
yeah.
game from. It's actually a collaboration between Machine Games, who made obviously Wolfenstein. What was the first one? First Order. Wolfenstein: The First
The
Order. No, that's
the new
Star
order.
Wars. New Order. Sorry, I've been watching Star Wars recently. I watched Rogue One last night. Quality film. Anyway, yeah, and then Arcane Studios, who are obviously known for the Dishonored games. It's a strange. I mean, on paper, that sounds like a quality mix, doesn't it? And I went to one of the panels at QuakeCon was Arcane and Machine Games in discussion. What makes a great game? And they didn't really talk too much about. There was another panel where they talked about this Youngblood game about how they like the challenges of making it co-op, which I unfortunately missed because I slept in. But whatever. I went to this other panel and it was some really really insightful stuff. So on paper, I mean, arcane level design with machine games shooting sounds incredible. When you actually put it into practice and in the way that it's been done, because they've sort of tried to turn this into a live service game, doesn't really work that great.
No.
So it's a co-op game. It's got. I should also say again, the national student got me a review code for this, so thank you very much. I didn't actually lay down any money for this, which I'm extremely grateful for. I will have a review of it going up in the next few days as well, so keep an eye on the national student for that. So it's £24.99 on Steam or £30, I think, for the deluxe edition. If you buy the deluxe edition, you get what's known as the Buddy Pass, which is basically a way for someone else to play the game for free. Or you only need one copy of the game. They download like the trial version, and then you just invite them to your game, and they can join your game. But they can't play it. They can only play it like when they've joined someone else who actually owns the game.
It was pretty. I'll admit it was very seamless
It
doing
was,
that.
yeah. We were very worried.
Just downloaded the game.
Yeah,
I downloaded the game off Steam. It had its own button there, Prime and Ready. You could just click it, like click trial version to play with a buddy. Download the game. I get invited. We played the game. It was simple as anything.
yeah. We were really worried like before because I wasn't sure whether my review copy would have like the Buddy Pass system. Then it turns out it did. And then we were like, wait, where do you download it? Because I tried redeeming the code on the Bethesda launcher and it was like, this code is not valid. I was like, shit, have I got a dud code? And then I read, oh, it's on Steam, which is a little
Yeah,
bit
it's also
weird.
very un-Bethesda.
Yeah,
Like,
it is like not being
I,
on their own
I, I,
platform.
I was I was getting ready to be facing the Bethesda launcher hell,
Yeah,
and I didn't have to.
yeah. So it was very 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 seamless. We spawned in. I don't think there wasn't any sort of was it buggy? I don't remember it being buggy.
It wasn't buggy.
We played
It
this
wasn't
like a
buggy.
week ago
This
now.
game, right? Here's the good things I can say about this game, right? This game, everything this game does works, right? It works. Like, it looks pretty.
On a technical level, yeah.
On a technical level, it works. Like, it's a game that looks pretty. The art design is fucking cool. Because, I mean, Wolfenstein games always are.
You didn't
I
even
just,
get up to the because you played the first few missions with me and didn't really enjoy it. Spoiler alert. And
yeah,
then
I don't
I've
know.
I've played a bit further on and done like even though it's a co-op game, you can play it solo. So I've done the next few missions solo, and let me tell you, the fucking art direction gets even better. Like when you get there's some big boss battles with like massive arenas in like Nazi architecture. Like it's pretty damn fucking cool. Um, yeah, I mean it looks gorgeous. It runs really well. I'm playing on because like I'm back at
Yeah,
home. I haven't got my
it
big
ran really
PC.
well for me as
I'm
well.
playing on a 1060 and a i7 on a laptop, and it runs
That's what
surprisingly well.
the ID engine will do for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Um,
yeah, I mean, it was very pretty. Something that really drew me to this game was the fact that it was set in the 80s in Nazi occupied Paris, with two female protagonists, and it used the exact same font that they used in the James Bond film GoldenEye.
yeah,
And I was like, right, this could be one of the best games ever made. And it wasn't.
yeah,
That's what was really sad to me. Is
it does
like
fall a bit
this
flat.
game this game is so fine that I don't like it
Yeah,
even more.
exactly. It's
It's
yeah.
so fine. Like it's so okay that it's offensive.
I mean, to an extent, I know exactly what you mean, but there are some parts of it where I'm like, yeah, like I get actually, yeah, I agree. It's fine, but it's just not for me. So the mission structure is different. It's actually it's like a semi-open world game. So the arcane level design, of course, is fantastic. It feels like a Dishonored level, but where it differs is that when Arcane design a Dishonored level, it is very much in the sort of classic version of the word level. It is a level.
Hmm.
You spawn in, you go from point to point. You can like explore and find secrets, very much like like Doom. That there it's
Yeah.
like it's linear, but it's
Well,
you can
Dishonored
explore a bit.
one. Well, Dishonored one had like 6 levels. and that
Yeah,
was
but
it.
they were
But
also like
but
they were so intricately detailed and sandboxy that
yeah,
you could sort
yeah,
of
it's the same
spend
as
ages
like
in them.
same as something like Hitman. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah, exactly.
like you can play the level shit tons of times.
Yeah, and you probably won't get because you'll find new shit, and
Yeah,
that's here. But because it's not open world, you go through these different levels and you select missions that you want to do, but they all overlap, so you end up retreading the same streets, the same Nazi checkpoints, just over and over again, and it's really because all the Nazis respawn. So if you end up going down into the sewer to get to like another area and then coming, but then realize that you've like because I did this a couple times because the selecting missions and then figuring out which way to go is not that easily signpost. I found, um, so I ended up like entering a sewer, then realizing I'd gone the wrong way, going back out the sewer, but then surfacing in the Nazi checkpoint that I'd just cleared, being completely repopulated and now surrounded by. I was like, I've got to do all this again now, do I? So yeah, it gets very, very repetitive. Even though it's
yeah, and
beautiful,
that's not even adhering to Arcane's design philosophy because there were multi segmented parts in Dishonored 1 where a level you'd you'd go through a loading screen into another level, but if you came back, everyone you'd killed or knocked out would still be killed or knocked out.
yeah, exactly.
So I don't know
So
why this is an exception.
yeah, I mean, you can see where like you can see it's very easy to see where Machine Games and Arcane have like gelled together in terms of their design philosophies, but it doesn't necessarily work 100% of the time. A lot of the missions, it's very RPG. It's like the Far Cry shit. What was it? Not Primal. What was the new one? New Dawn, where
You don't.
they turned Far Cry 5 into literally just a numbers game. Um, and I mean, Wolfenstein isn't exactly like Doom, where I mean, Doom, at least the new Dooms, they are full power fantasy. Like you are there to have fun. You are there to fuck shit up. Wolfenstein's kind of similar. You are meant to be sort of portrayed as this American hero that can do anything, to an extent. Obviously, the Nazis are still powerful entities, so they are
It's
supposed to be a little bit of a challenge. But
it's the
things
difference. It's the difference between um, it's the difference between say like Captain America and Indiana Jones. Like they're both fucking awesome, but one can like do ridiculous amounts of things, but the other one, because he's vulnerable, the things that he does are just as cool.
Yeah, exactly. I get what you mean.
That's what BJ is. Like
Mm.
BJ is a bit more vulnerable, or I mean, a lot more vulnerable than Doom Guy is. But the fact that he takes on the amount of enemies that he does in like semi like well, not even close to realism, but more close to realism than Doom Guy does, is what makes him cool.
Mm. I mean, we say realism. In the second one, he got his head chopped off and attached to a cyborg suit. So, I mean, I'll talk about the ridiculousness of Doom and why because Doom's great because it capitalizes on that, whereas the sort of Wolfen. I mean, I don't know if because we watched the. Do you remember the opening cutscene to this game where it's like super serious and like, um,
Well,
you
yeah,
like you're like off hunting and it's like there's all sort of like internal monologues. I'm like,
this happened. We we saw the start of this in New Colossus. We saw the start of this new sort of art direction where shots, like each cutscene, is filmed so well. Like, I mean, I say filmed, obviously it's a cutscene with like
yeah.
virtual cameras, but it's shot so well, it's choreographed so well, it's voice acted so well, but there's just something tonally very inconsistent and off, and it feels like it's very much lost its way. This started a new Colossus and is on full display here. And I haven't, I mean, I watched a few reviews after I stopped playing just to see a bit more. And some of the stuff I was seeing, like from within the game, was just like, yeah, that has made me kind of like, that really didn't land. That didn't land. That didn't land. I'm like, it's just very odd.
Yeah, that
Like,
continues into
especially,
the characters, like because they're Jess and Soph, I think are the characters' names.
yes.
Um, they have this like really sort of dorky relationship with each other. They are like young adults basically, and I mean when they're on like when their mind is on the mission, it's like it's super serious and like all that matters is the mission. And then but then you'll get to like a scene where like they enter an elevator and they just sort of start dancing with each other, and I'm like, that's funny. Like, is that meant to be funny? I mean, I guess it's funny from like an objective standpoint, but when like you just
It's
I don't know, it's very tonally inconsistent, and I'm not sure
yeah,
whether it doesn't
it's
really work for the
tonal.
humor that it like
I
sets
I
up.
remember I remember back in 2016 E3, we were watching it, and they showed off New Colossus in all of its like. It was a big presentation at the end of the Bethesda conference, and they showed that game. They showed so much of it, and it was like cut to this scene, cut to this scene. There was like a fake propaganda ad, and we were like, "This is fucking mental!
Mm,
Like, this is gonna be so cool." And I'm like, and I remember saying, "This looks really tonally fucked."
mm.
Like, like, do they know what they're doing? And you said, "I think I know exactly what they're doing," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm with you." I don't feel like that anymore. I don't think they've got a fucking idea what they're doing like tonally with his franchise. Like
Yeah,
I can't work it out. Like
yeah,
there's nothing to like grasp onto here anymore.
yeah. No, also, like continuing on from the story. I mean, I haven't actually I haven't got to the end of the story of this one yet, but I do wonder where they're gonna go. Whether like if they do make another one. I think I'm trying to remember. I think they might have hinted that they were making another one, or like
I
the
think
Machine
what
Games were working on another project, like at that conference at the panel that I went to. But
well I mean
I can't say.
America's being saved and America's the only country that exists, so why would you
Oh
make a
yeah,
third one?
of course. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, going back to the RPG stuff, it's turned into a bit of a numbers game. So all the missions are now like, well, they're not level gated. You can attempt them, but they have a massive skull next to them, as we found out when we sort of accidentally wandered into the wrong area and got absolutely ruined by quite a lot of enemies. Um, and all you can actually, to be fair, I will say that once, because we were collecting loads and loads of coins. By the way, the looting is boring as anything. It's literally just a case of walking around desks and mashing F and see what you pick up. It was super
Yeah, don't
boring.
you love how don't you love how in Doom all the loot it just gets picked up when you walk over it? I like that.
Yeah, I like that as well. It's super boring just going and mashing it, and then but you've got to also be super precise. So you've actually got to walk up to like a desk and then look directly at this tiny coin and then press F. And it's like, oh my god, like going from running and gunning and like sliding about and doing all sorts of cool shit out in the open like compounds, and then going inside to office, like that change of pace just isn't fun at all. So to be fair, once you get enough coins to like start upgrading your weapons, and the upgrades are fairly cheap. I don't know why we didn't do it earlier. The weapons do become a lot more fun to use once you actually start upgrading them and stuff. Um, but beyond that, it does become a bit of a numbers game. You are literally just doing missions to bump numbers up, to increase your health, to get new perks. A lot of the perks are very arbitrary. It's just like you will get more health, you can dual wield this weapon, you can like hold more ammo. It's literally just a
But that's
numbers game.
such a stupid arbitrary skill system though. Like in New Order and New Colossus, from what I could see, the skills made sense. Whereas here, it's like upgrade your vitality and armor. Like, okay, fair enough. And then it's like unlock the power to dual wield. I'm like, right, so I've unlocked the skill to be able to pick up another gun with my other hand.
Yeah,
Like why is that level gated?
yeah,
Like
it's
just but
super
I think
annoying.
the thing that shocked me with this, I think I might have actually enjoyed it more had I known what kind of game it was before I actually went into it. The because I mean I really liked the first Wolfenstein, didn't play the second one. Um, the shooting in the second one was apparently even better. But from what I saw of the story, it started to have this tonal weirdness problem and kind of
Yeah,
lost its way. Um, and from what I saw, the fact that this could just be like a a co-op like Wolfenstein shooter game, which I can just play with a mate and just blast through and have sort of doomy Wolfensteiny style fun and just shoot a bunch of Nazis up. across a bunch of levels. Like, that sounds awesome, with maybe like a horde mode or something. That
Mm.
sounds fucking cool. And then when I realized what the game was, I was like, wow, I'm really disappointed. Like, I was disappointed so early because I was like, this isn't at all what I expected.
Yeah, I think. Oh, you said like you don't really know. You didn't really know what the game is. I don't. The game really has a. It doesn't have a strong identity of itself. Like
Yeah, maybe
it.
the game doesn't know what the game is.
Yeah, because they've tried to put this like this live service thing in because there's dailies and weekly missions. I'm like, this is a single player game. Why am I? But like, there's not enough here to support like something like I don't want to. When I'm buying this game, I'm not buying this thinking I'm going to still be playing this in December. I'm thinking I can blast through this in 3 days and really enjoy it. You know, like I'm not here to keep coming back. Um, and yeah, it's got microtransactions in it for some reason. Although to be fair, they're not intrusive at all because I'd never found a reason to use them. But the fact that they're there is still just pointless. Like the same thing. It's like it really doesn't have a strong identity of what it wants to be. Um, I was going to say something else as well, and I can't remember what it was
Oh,
now.
also, I mean, you say they're useless, but aren't they adding ones later on that aren't that useless?
I can't remember. I don't care to be honest because I'm probably not going to play it past a few more missions.
I
I'm going to
know,
play it. I'm
I know,
playing it to
but
the point
that's
where I can review it and then.
I
Uh,
mean that's the thing
so
we didn't mention this week, and I don't like. It's probably not worth bringing up as a full topic, but this game has been confirmed to introduce. It's going to introduce different forms of microtransactions later down the line.
really,
Like, yeah,
I've not heard about this.
like you can buy consumables and upgrades and stuff.
That's super annoying. I
Uh,
mean, I didn't find the consumables and the upgrades to be that like
I mean,
that
it's
sparse.
less. I mean, it's less what that actually means in the context of the game, and more the fact that games are. I mean, the real problem with this, like, sort of arose when Activision is putting crates like loot, like just straight up loot crates in Crash Team Racing now.
Yeah, good point.
It's the fact that they're doing it after launch and they can't put that on the box. That's why they're doing
Yeah,
it.
that's a good shout actually. Yeah, oh yeah, because they're with like the whole Peggy rating stuff now. They're supposed to be like starting to put like this game has
Yeah.
microtransactions in it.
So
That
so they're
yeah,
like
that's a
right.
good way of getting
They're
around
like
it.
right. We just sell the game on the shelf, and then we just put the boxes in a month afterwards. Job's a good one.
That's
Lol.
yeah, okay. That's
How
scummy as
scummy
fuck.
is that?
That is
Like,
scummy as fuck.
I mean, in a game like Crash as well. Don't
Yeah, that's super
don't
kid
be doing that
centric.
to my don't be doing that to my boy. Fuck off. Do it to like COD or something. Like, I like COD.
COD has
Like,
that. Did I? I think
don't
I've
get me
spoken a
wrong.
lot.
Don't get me wrong, but COD, like, if any franchise is gonna fit that, it's either a mobile game, COD, or something that just doesn't really care, right?
Mm,
Because it's gonna get money anyway. Don't do it to Crash. It's
yeah,
like Mario doing it.
it's
But
also
Mario did do it. They did. Nintendo did that.
so with the new Doctor Mario thing.
The Dr. Mario, yeah, it was a disgusting mobile transaction mess. It was
I've not heard
horrible.
much about that actually. But maybe
It's
maybe I'll
it's
maybe I'll try it for next week because I'm going away, so I'll have my phone.
it's literally Candy Crush.
I
It's
don't
got
like Candy
all
Crush.
it's got all the same. Well, I mean, gameplay wise, it's not the same, but it's got all the same, like, psychological. Oh, just spend 10p here and spend
Uh,
10p there, and I'm like, you're
Excellent.
Nintendo.
Yeah, come on.
Like,
Like you're supposed to
fucking
not know the
hell.
internet. You were supposed to discover the internet about 6 months ago. Like, how the fuck have you come up with this?
Well, it's very convenient that they've suddenly worked out how to make a full-on evil, Doctor Evil psychological business model to steal money from children, and they can't get the netcode in Smash Ultimate to work when they can do it in 2004.
Is Nintendo the new Ubisoft and EA? Is it going to happen?
No, no, because because no matter what happens, Nintendo will have apologists. Are there
Hmm.
EA apologists apart from Westy? No.
Good point. Good point. Um. Anyway, yeah, I think like I haven't finished my review yet. I think at the minute, I think it's probably a 6 out of 10 game if I had to give it a score.
I give it a
Um.
5.
Yeah,
Because, as I
it's
said,
personal
it's
preference.
so, as I said, it's so okay, and because, like I said, it's offensively okay, so I
Yeah.
give it slap in the middle, 5.
That's fair. I'd give it a point extra because I can see bits of the design that are like the shooting's fairly enjoyable, if like not much changed from New Colossus, and it's cheap as chips. You can't. I mean, at the minute it's cheap as chips, not
Yeah,
like the
it is pretty
microtransactions
cheap. It is
withstanding.
pretty cheap for what it is.
I mean, if especially if you go for the buddy pass one and you like split the cost 15 quid each way, I mean, you can't. Well, you can complain, but you know what I mean.
Also, it's also worth mentioning that you can't completely listen to us because we do have two other people in our friendship group who are playing it, and they say they're actually really enjoying it. So,
That's
you know,
true. It is personal preference. The one thing that's what I was going to mention earlier that I forgot about. I'm struggling to review this game quickly because I can't play this game for more than 3 hours, but without feeling physically ill because the amount of
the
head
head
bob
bob.
and the head bob is
Yeah,
ridiculous, man.
yeah, that
Like,
that is also something that really like. I don't want to talk that long about this game because I could like. I mean, if I were to do a review on this game, there'd be so much to break down. It would be such a long video.
yeah.
Um, like not because there's so much wrong with it, but like I mean, I've always said this. Like the games that really make me upset, like not like either upset or are big talking points for me are games that were almost good. Like if a game's bad, I kind of just go, right, this game is clearly just a development hell nightmare and was shut out and the people didn't really care. Like 3 out of 10, next. Like I can do that.
Hmm.
If it's something like this or something that was very close to good or something that had like an interesting story behind it of why it went wrong, that's more interesting to me. Like this game isn't even that though. Like it's just so fine.
Let me just clip that like the last 20 seconds of that for when Bad Company 3 releases last year and it completely misses the mark and I physically have a mental breakdown. Um, sorry, that's right. Everyone take their second shot because that's the second time I've dunked on Battlefield this podcast. Let's stop shitting on Wolfenstein and move on to the
The
finest
good
cream
stuff.
gravy part of the Doom Eternal.
Now, okay, 5.1 out of 10.
5.1 for that line
5.1
alone.
out of 10 simply for just saying how you holding up, Jess? Fan is cream gravy.
Fine as cream gravy.
I fucking love that. That's brilliant. 5.1 out of 10. There you go, Machine Games.
I'm gonna start using that as my
Save?
sorry. Oh yeah.
Same.
That's
I'm
that
gonna set my Discord name to that.
potential. What was it? I wanted to change my ringtone to something the other day. It was sorry. That's completely not even Wolfenstein related. But it was funny. Whatever it was. Right. I played Doom Eternal. It's not even out yet. This is like what the fuck? How like I've got not exclusive access because other people played it as well. But yeah, fucking good fun. This it like I've written a review. It just needs to be published on the National Student at some point in the next few days. So this is the demo that I played. If you want any sort of reference point, I think it was released at E3. That gameplay from E3. That it was the same demo that I played. Also, they did like a full hour walkthrough the day after. That's up, which is really super interesting. If you want to go and watch that, you get some like super development insights into like their how they sort of chose to develop this game. That was the demo that I played as well. So it was about half an hour long. Um, so it starts like on the UAC like ship on Phobos. Is that like I think that's like a
Yes.
Martian moon or something like that.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
so it starts on that and it goes through like all the staff are like running away from the Doom guy and like all terrified. It's hilarious fun, and that sort of that theme is what I love that they've capitalized on that because it was sort of Doom 2016 kind of went. It sort of leaned into the ridiculousness, like when he like at the start where you're getting monologued and then he just throws the monitor away. He's like, I don't fucking care. Just
Mm.
pick up. You have a gun in your hands in the first 5 seconds of the game. Like they really
But
like
he's
they
too angry to listen to the plot.
yeah, exactly. They leaned into it in 2016, and they're just fucking running with it with Eternal. So it's super ridiculous to the point like that's where the comedy comes from. And I'll go through sort of the points that I've made in my write up here. Um, so right, I'll talk about the weapons first. So some of the weapons are returning. You've got the combat shotgun and the super shotgun return, and like some of the alternate fire modes return as well. So you got the shotgun like fire mode. So the grenade fire mode for the combat shotgun. The super shotgun's now fitted with a grappling hook, which can like pull the player in the direction of enemies. It's really useful. Like it's used a little bit in the platforming sections. That's probably just for like tutorial sake. But it's also really useful in terms of like when you're actually in the combat. So you can like pull yourself towards an enemy really quickly and deal more damage. I think because obviously like with the super shotgun does more damage when you get up close. You like pull. I don't know if like the momentum of you moving forward does more damage. It appeared to anyway. It probably did because this game just appeals to the power fantasy completely. But it's also great for like platforming. You can like pull yourself up to the oh shit, what's them demons called that like fly around, the big round ones with the one eye? I can't
There's
remember.
two kinds. It's either the
Cacodemons.
cacodemon or the pain elemental.
The cacodemon, I think. You can like pull yourself up to cacodemons and then like double jump over them. So it's really useful for just like weaving in and about of demons while you're like flying around at 5 million miles an hour. One thing that I want to point out because I didn't even realize that this wasn't in Doom 2016. You know the dash feature from Rage 2, where you
Yes.
can dash in a certain direction. That they've just ported that to Doom Eternal, and like when I first jumped in, like it was so natural to me, and I completely forgot that it wasn't in 2016. I was like this is perfect. Like it's fantastic that you can just like dash around it like feed because you can. There's no sprint button, so shift is now dash, and it again it just
Doesn't it doesn't it work like the tracer blinks, where you've got like two charges of it, and then you can use them,
yeah,
and then they fill up over time?
exactly. But they fill up so quickly, it's ridiculous. Like 1 second, 1.5 second, they fill back up. They use it in the platforming sections, but again in like the combat sections, it's super. It just feels so intuitive. Like I want to go back and play Doom 2016 before Eternal, but I don't think I can now because like I'm like it just feels so slow. Um, there's a new Ghost weapon. It shoots out like a Ghostbusters style beam of energy. That's like its alternate fire mode. You have to like slow down like really like a lot. So you're really vulnerable. But it holds enemies in place and deals shitloads of damage. It's pretty cool. The chain gun. I think the chain gun was in the original in 2016, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's got the
That
fastest
w-
rate of fire in the
that
game.
one was interesting because when you upgraded it, you could turn it into a turret that meant you didn't move.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't know if that's in this. I because like this, as far as I'm aware, so the demo took place across one level, but it was like short sections for it, like sort of cherry picked out of the level, so it wasn't like the full hour level or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Aiming down sights and charging up the new ballista gun that sends out like a high powered grenade that absolutely fucking ruins its target. And the combat's really like the difference between like because I loved 2016. I'm sure you did as well.
Of course.
Um, and to me, going when I first went into play Doom Eternal, I was thinking, how do you evolve 2016? Because to me, that's just it's such a fantastic shooter that in my eyes it was not perfect, but it was damn near, it was damn close. And now after I played Eternal,
When you were shooting at things, it was perfect.
yeah, exactly. So to me, I was like, how? Where do you go from there? And now I've played Doom Eternal. I'm like, actually, yeah, I can pick some holes in the original Doom now. Actually, not that it like it's perfectly fine, but this just elevates it to a whole other level. So in Doom 2016, would you agree that sort of there's not really much thought? Like the only sort of thought that you have to put into is your path around the arena. Like it's all about damage output. It's just like there's demons over
Um,
there, ruin them.
I feel like there were certain guns that really did like work better on certain enemies. Like the plasma launcher was something that I found myself switching to a lot because
Mm,
the raw damage of it wasn't that good, but when you upgraded it, it kind of sent out this pulse that like stunned demons
yeah.
like in that time. Um, and that was really good, especially like there were times like in the later levels where like two Baron of Hells would spawn, and you're like, well, like it like a lot of the guns had a sort of oh fuck button for different oh fuck related moments,
Yeah.
which
Well,
was good.
there's
And
go on.
going yeah, and then there was like I think aside from that, like I'm just trying to think of the ones I would use. Like for the cacodemons and pain elementals, I would use the Gorse cannon because it just
Mm,
seemed to one shot them. That's kind of what it was a matter of. Like for different enemies, there were certain guns that I knew would just one bang different enemies.
Yeah.
So that's why I switched them. And then
Well,
apart from
that's
that, it was just the chainsaw.
yeah, pretty much. So it was mostly like just sort of damage output. Like occasionally you switch to a different weapon because like either you ran out of ammo or whatever. But they've added like they kept saying this on the like the keynote afterwards, but they've really tried to make this turn this into a thinking man's action game. Um, so each of the more powerful enemies have this like a target spot that can be destroyed first, which makes taking them down much easier. So the like arachnotron enemies, they have like a turret above their head, which if you destroy that, obviously they don't have like any ranged weapons, so it makes taking them down far easier. What's those big like the big chunky lads with the two arm cannons? I can't remember the name of it
Mancubus.
now. Yeah, the mancubuses. They have like obviously the two arm cannons, and you can target those arm cannons, and if you destroy those first, it does like far more damage, and obviously gets rid of their like ranged weapons. Um, they also have like different attacks now, so you're supposed to like get that. That's where the dash comes in, where you can like you need to learn how to dash in and then dash out, so they don't do like close range attacks and do because that deals shitloads of damage. So it really makes you think about sort of target prioritization and like makes you think about your aim as well, not just sort of I have a shotgun, I'm going to point it at you and you will explode, which is still fun. You can still do that on like the lower powered enemies, but it really makes you think about how you're going to dispatch the high, especially the higher powered enemies, and it's made a lot more fun because I don't know if this was probably a thing in the first one, but it's much more emphasized in Eternal. You can directly like sort of you can see how much damage you're doing to enemies because bits
This
of
is
their
new.
skin just fly off, like they sort
This
of
is new.
deform
Yeah,
as you shoot them, and
they
it's
talked about
super
this.
cool.
They talked about this last year. It's referred to internally as destructible demons.
Right.
They had to make a new sort of like, I mean, I don't really know the term for this, but basically just a new system in game that allowed you to be able to see the health of
Mm.
any demon without them having a health bar.
Like a
I
GUI
think,
element.
yeah, I think the best example of this is on the Barons of Hell, which
Mm.
are, I think you know which enemies these are, right?
Yeah. Like the big,
Yeah,
like tall, like horned dudes.
yeah. The fucking amazing design on them. I mean, we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about how fucking incredible the design work is in this new game as well. Um, the the Barons of Hell in the first one were, I mean, they took like gory damage, and you could definitely tell you were doing damage, but they didn't really change their models. In
Yeah.
this one, wherever you shoot them, they like get this sort of molten glow around them,
Mm.
and you can see how much damage you've done to them. Like you can very much tell. And like
Yeah. They,
like you said, with the arachnotrons, that turret doesn't just come off. Like the top of that demon is caved in, but it's still
Yeah, oh yeah,
fighting you.
it's completely fucked. Yeah, it and it's not just like a sort of it's not a throwaway thing. You genuinely notice it while you're playing. Like enemies get fucked up as you shoot them, and it's more gory, but again, it has like a
It has a
gameplay.
purpose.
Yeah, it has a
Yeah,
purpose. It's like you can tell how fucked up enemies are, and
it's like
it's really cool.
it's like how it's more rewarding. Like when people first start playing Monster Hunter, they're like, "Why doesn't the monster have a health bar? That's really annoying." But then when you
Yeah,
play it for longer and you do the really hard ones, and the monster starts to limp, you're like, "Oh fuck, he's low." You're
yeah,
like it,
yeah.
it's
It's
it's that sort
exactly
of
the
thing
sort
that
of like
it makes it better. It's just better.
yeah, exactly. Um, and again, so the way that you like replenish your ammo, health, and shields has now changed as well. So in 2016, if you wanted to like regain health and shields, you just did like the what are they called glory
Glory
kills.
kill.
Yeah, and if you needed ammo, you cut someone up with a chainsaw. The ammo still replenished by slicing up a chainsaw, but health and shields are now separated. So health is replenished by glory kills again, but shields are now replenished you by torching enemies with your flamethrower.
This
Um,
is a completely new mechanic. Because the
yeah.
devs
So you
talk
can like,
about this, like torching is like a term which is going to be important in this.
yeah, exactly. So, but the way that so if you when you torch an enemy, he will like sort of slowly like ooze out shield replenishment items, and then if you like kill them while they're on fire, they sort of explode in a flurry of them. Um, but it's again like going into this sort of thinking man's action game. You can use all this shit tactically. So if you need a lot of shields, you can like chain like loads of smaller enemies up like into a group, torch them all, and then just blow them up, and you will get like a massive waterfall of just like shield items. Same for health and like ammo, but it really makes you think about like how can I best group up these enemies to like replenish the item, the utility item that I need.
It's funny
And
because you watch them doing that in the original like gameplay trailer for Phobos, which is the mission that you played.
mm,
And when you watch that trailer back, I was thinking, like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, they're just showing off all the different elements of the Slayer. And even though it was a demo and you could tell that they'd made it so that you couldn't die, um, they were showing off all these elements, and you thought, okay, well, this is just to show me all the shit that the Slayer can do. But now when you watch it and you've got all this knowledge, you're like, no, this is actually way more deep than it looks.
yeah, exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. Like thinking back on Doom 2016 now, it actually feels quite basic. Like the well, not ridiculously basic, but they've done more than I thought they could to sort of evolve Doom to a place where it really does make you think a lot more.
Doom, I feel like Doom 2016's design, like, its basic design was made up for in the speed that you had to play at.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the speed is diminished here because it's fucking hard. Like it's defaulted to medium difficulty on the demo anyway, and it was difficult. The first time I played it, I was still getting used to the controls, and I died a couple times. They have like one ups now as well, which are really cool. You can like find them, and that rewards you for like going and exploring, finding secrets. That really it's very video game. It doesn't shy away from the fact that this is a video game and you're here for the power fantasy to have fun. But yeah, it was very difficult even on medium difficulty. It was much better the second day when I played it and I sort of knew the controls a bit better. But yeah, it hasn't slowed down at all. Like it's still ridiculously fast paced. Right, where am I in my notes? So yeah, demons spawn like a constant rate. They persistently pursue the player. Like they showed on like that gameplay demo. They joked and said like they would because they were like trying to show it as an example, just how quickly you can die if you just stop standing still. He said like yeah, let's just test it for like 5 seconds, and within about half a second, he took about 150 damage and was on 1 HP. It was like yeah, well that'll do it. You just don't have time to stop and stand still. I played on mouse and keyboard, by the way. I know you were saying like the other week that like playing shooters can be more fun with a controller. There was the option for a controller there, but they had mouse and keyboards there, so I was like, fuck it, I'm playing mouse and
Well,
keyboard.
that's going to give you the best judge of the game, like in the limited time span that you have. So I think it's a
Yeah, I
good
only had
idea
like
that you
half an
played
hour.
mouse and keyboard. I think with a lot of shooters, I don't know if I actually said this on the podcast last week, but I would never not play a multiplayer shooter or any shooter that required a level of skill to beat with a controller. But I am still of the camp that I think that shooters are more fun on a controller, not
Hmm.
more like easy to control or it's my personal preference to play them. I just think they are more fun. When I
Hmm.
play Eternal, I will still be playing on mouse and keyboard, but I'm gonna give it a try with controller as well because it is.
You can still freeze time with like the weapon wheel if you well, it doesn't freeze, it slows down. It doesn't freeze completely, but you can slow down. You can still bring up the weapon wheel. I think you hold V, I think it is, and it brings up that weapon wheel. They talked about like they've color coded the weapon wheel now to show you exactly how much ammo you have for each weapon. It's not just like a number that you have to look for, just so you can quickly like at a glance tell like how much ammo you need for each weapon.
I mean, that was
Um,
something good. I mean, that was something that 2016 did really well. Was they made it so that unlike a game like I mean there's loads of games where you have a shit ton of weapons. Like take for example BioShock, you've got like 8 different weapons and you can only upgrade them to a certain degree so people get obsessed with one weapon. But something
hmm.
which was smart that they did in 2016 was they limited the ammo in such a way that you were constantly switching weapons just on an ammo basis.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you were talking about like earlier that certain weapons are kind of more useful against certain enemies. Um, like the again with the Cacodeme, with the different like the hotspots that you can target. Like the Cacodemon's hotspot is if you fire a grenade into its mouth, it swallows it and like does shitloads of damage. So again, yeah, like weapons do have, and if you come across this wasn't in the demo because they hadn't finished it yet, but in the final game when you if there's an enemy with a shield, if you destroy that shield with the plasma gun, that shield will explode and deal like a shitload of area damage.
That
So
happened in 2016.
did it? Okay, well, it
Yeah,
wasn't fully done up in Eternal. They said on the stream. Um, so yeah, there's a few other like movement abilities now. So there's yellow monkey bars that are located around the levels that you can use to like gain extra height on jumps. I mean, you already have a double jump, but this just adds extra shit. But I find it really useful for like getting a bird's eye view of like an area in a pinch, and also for like gaining height to like get up on cacodemons and stuff. Rough walls can be climbed. They didn't appear like that often in the combat scenarios, but certainly in like the 3D platforming areas.
yeah, it seems more of a
Um,
traversal thing.
yeah,
It
they were
lets
good for
them.
like
It seems like it'll let them do vertical like level design better because it's always better
with
to go.
yeah.
I mean, in level design, it's always better to go up rather than out.
Yeah, absolutely. There was quite a lot of vertical level design in the sections that I played as well. That also like adds an extra dimension to like the puzzle finding and like all sorts of upgrades and stuff. So yeah, we'll getting back to like the tone. I mean, like Doom 2016 wasn't averse to like the odd joke at the ridiculousness of the like situation presented, but Eternal goes all in with like the self-aware tone. So you got like the particularly gamey mechanics, like extra life pickups. They're placed like front and center, and the familiar AI humor continues from the first game. One of my favorite like gags from the Eternal demo was as you fire yourself into the exploding core of Mars in an escape pod. An AI comes on and says like, "Please prepare for some mild turbulence." I'm like, that does not line up with what I'm fucking watching on my screen right now. Or where Doom Guy like kicks away a BFG cannonball and instead uses the BFG cannon to fire himself across space and just like burst through the wall of another spaceship and just start shooting demons again. It's like the events of Doom have become so obscene in their ridiculousness that attempting to portray them as serious, like they do in Wolfenstein, would
I didn't.
completely undermine
I,
the tone.
I didn't know Doom Guy fired himself in the BFG 10,000. The fuck is he,
Yeah.
Goku? Like,
So yeah, I mean, Eternal gets it right by like completely accepting that the nature of its events should be comedic, and it just runs with it. Um, and again, we can talk about the art direction, the audio design, the level design is like perfectly married with the visuals. It's very pretty to look at. I played it on, I think it was a 4K monitor. It looked like a 4K monitor, 60 FPS. I think no, it was higher than 60 FPS. It was like 120 with RTX on. I did notice, I think that all of the graphics settings were turned to low or medium just so RTX could be turned on, which is fine. It still looked very pretty, but you could tell that some of the textures were a bit flat and the lighting was a bit flat, apart from the obvious like RTX bits. I thought that was quite entertaining. But yeah, it looked gorgeous on the setup that I had. Well, I think I
did you see that? It's related because Quake is running. Sorry, this is running with RTX available when you buy it, yeah.
yeah.
And I think the Quake remake is on the same engine.
Right.
I think. So there was recently a Nvidia sponsored thing where they got a bunch of streamers to basically play Quake 2 multiplayer with RTX on.
Right.
And it was running at about 60 frames a second, but it was just like sometimes slightly dipping under it. And
Mm.
Tommy from Two Angry Gamers, his was running at about 35.
Right.
Uh, like during play, but it was a sponsored segment. But he forgot, so one of the people, like one of the official Nvidia people, said to him, "Oh, you could just turn. I think you can just turn RTX off for now." And he turned it off,
Yeah.
and he suddenly went to 144 FPS, and he was like, "Oh, it's way better now." S- Sponsored, by the way. The
Oh
entire
dear.
point was to showcase how good RTX was, and he's like, "I'll turn that off. Oh, it's way better." I love
Yeah,
RTX. RTX is very pretty. I don't think it's there yet,
it's not. Yeah, we like. I'm not jumping
commercially
on the
anyway.
RTX bandwagon yet. Not for a while anyway. Yeah. Um, but yeah, say I've talked about the art direction. It's gorgeous. The music, I just sort of once I sat in an area after I'd like defeated all the enemies. I just sort of sat listening to the soundtrack for about 5 minutes, which I probably shouldn't have done because I didn't actually finish the demo on that second time. I ran out of time because I was too busy admiring things. Because say like the first time I did it, actually I got more time on the press day because people actually had appointments. So but I was like, it was my first ever one, so I was like, oh, I'll just like run through this like as quickly as I can because I don't want to like not finish it. And I finished quite early. I think I finished it after about 22 minutes or something like that. And then my appointment on the public day was about 20 minutes long, but I spent, because I'd already played it, I like explored a bit more and did sort of took my time with it. And then I got to like halfway through the third out of the fourth stage, and this guy came over and was like, you got 5 more minutes, mate. I was like, shit. I've got like, I know exactly how, like, I've got another whole section to do yet. But yeah, the soundtrack is banging. Mick Gordon returns, metal rock track list. It sort of ebbs and flows with each fight. Like times itself with the glory kills. It heavily contributes to the fast pace of the gameplay, and
BFG Division better come back.
I guarantee it probably will do.
Do you know what I
But
want, Josh? I've decided
go on.
all I want from this game is, obviously because it's Doom, you have all your weapons at the end of the game, and then you start a new game and they're all gone for no reason,
Yeah.
and then you get them all back. I want to discover the BFG, and I want there to be no noise other than the riff of BFG Division when you
that
look
would
at
be
it.
that
I
would be
mean,
fantastic.
they introduced the BFG so well in 2016 as well. How you have to go through this entire lab that's dedicated specifically to the like research of the BFG, and you like do
Mm,
a Mission Impossible style like jump down through like a pit of lasers that are meant to protect this BFG. You
yeah.
pick it up, you're like eventually like found out there's an explosion, you fall through the floor and you fall into a room of literally 500 like zombie scientists, like the zombie demons.
Yeah.
And then that's when it teaches you to use the BFG, and you just fire it, and they all just explode. And it's like,
To the
right,
tune of BFG Division.
yeah,
Yeah.
now I know what this gun does.
Yeah.
It's the big fucking gun.
It's the big fucking gun. Yeah. Um. Yeah. And then my demo ended. It was I I was excited for Doom Eternal. Again, like as I said, I wasn't sure how much they could evolve it from Doom 2016. Turns out, quite a fucking lot. This is now my most anticipated game for the end of this year. Like hands down, this is my
Oh, same.
like day one buy. Yeah.
I mean, it's same.
Um.
I mean, I would say my most anticipated game would be P5 Royal, but that's not coming out until. I mean,
That doesn't count.
the English
That's a
version isn't coming out until 2020, so it doesn't count.
it's a remake anyway. It doesn't count. Um.
Bleh.
Yeah. But yeah, no, absolutely. Doom Eternal was fucking class. A couple things like the whole venue was fantastic. Like when you walk the first day I played, there was two setups. There was like a main stage setup and then like another sort of fenced off one. The press day I didn't like the fenced off one. Not to say it was boring, but it just had like it was like a row of PCs with like the Doom logo on the wall and some red mood lighting. So it was pretty cool, but it wasn't as good as the main setup, which was basically I think I sent you like a video and some pictures. It's like a volcano. Like the walls were like made to look like hell, and in the center there was a volcano that had full pyrotechnics in it. So when everyone walked into their appointment, the Doom soundtrack started playing, and then this volcano thing like erupted in sparks, like in time to the music. There was like flashing red lighting going off everywhere. It was super super cool. It was very warm in there as well. But yeah,
I'm not fucking surprised.
it was very yeah, it was such a cool venue, and I got a free coaster. I got a where is it? It's a
You got more
Slayer's.
than a free coaster.
Well, I got a lot of free shit from. I mean, I bought some. I bought a Doom 25th anniversary mug. I also bought a Skyrim rug. Uh, it's a Skyrim doormat that you know the icon that appears over doors, like when you got to enter them in Skyrim.
Yeah,
It's a Skyrim doormat that's got that on it. I feel really nerdy
excellent.
buying that, but I'm going to stick it outside my flat when I go back to Manchester. What else did I buy? I swear I bought something else. Um, and then I got so much free shit. Like I got a free Skyrim. There's a new tabletop Skyrim game, Elder Scrolls game coming out later this year from Modifius, and I went to a really really cool panel about that. Actually, that was really interesting. But they gave us a Dragonborn piece for that on the press day. What else did they give us on the Fallout talk? I wasn't going to go to the Fallout 76 talk until they said 5 minutes before it started that there was freebies, and then I was all in. And I got a free perception bobblehead and what's it called, a Vault Boy mask, and because there wasn't that many people in the theater, I also got another free one of each of them. And then when I was leaving, they gave you a free goodie, like a Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, like gym bag thing that was full of other free shit, including another Vault Boy mask and another Vault Boy perception bobblehead. So I had three of them. I was very tempted to walk back through London and start Watch Dogs Legion early, and terrify some people. Actually, no, you don't want to do that in London. The terror alerts on like maximum minute at the minute, isn't it?
Well, it's been on maximum for 3 years.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Let's just not like annoy anyone in the capital while I'm like I only go down there like three. Well, I've been down there a few times this year, but yeah,
Mate,
let's
you're
not get
barred.
banned from London. You're
You're
fucking
barred
barred
from
from London,
London.
you are. Well, no, I had a fantastic time in London, so thank you very much to even if I did sweat out my body weight on the Thursday. So thank you very much to National Student who got me the tickets to go out there, and my mates in London who were very kind enough to put me up in their home for a few days, so I didn't have to pay any hotel fees. It was literally just train fares and food, so it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Doom Eternal is now my most anticipated game of this year. I think that's it for all we've been playing this week. I've not played anything else.
No, that's it.
Cool, right. Feels good, man. Clap. We've actually got two stories for this one because we're making up because we've not really had very much in the way of good news recently. First one, it's more sort of a shout out, really. It's if you watch RKG. They like used to work at IGN UK. They put out a really cool. They tried to complete Dark Souls 1 on the Switch on a flight from LA to London. Go what it's incredible. Like they like documented the whole thing. I watched it the other. It's like a 10 minute video. It's really cool, and I think it's you should watch
I've,
it because it's
I mean, if
go on.
it's not your, if you're not experienced in even remotely trying to speedrun that game, that sounds quite challenging. I mean, that flight's about what, 5 hours?
No, it's longer than that. It's about 14 hours, I think.
Oh well, that's not that hard. But maybe this is more
But
interesting than it sounds.
it's like three. Like some of them, I think one of them doesn't have a lot of experience with Dark Souls at all, and it's on the Switch on a handheld in a cramped flight that like using just the Switch at 30 FPS. So yeah, it was fun. It was a fun watch. I recommend giving that a go. The other feels good man clap story from this week is the Fortnite player from Essex who's won almost £1 million in the Fortnite World Cup. Jaden Wolfies Ashman and his Dutch teammate David Rojo Jong came second in the World Cup final duos. They're splitting the £1.8 million winnings between them, so that's like what 900k. I don't know what that'll be like after tax, like, but whatever. Well, I thought what was interesting about this story is that his mum had like a video interview with the BBC and said that she wasn't that supportive of his gaming. She like threw out one of his Xboxes and snapped one of his headsets.
No,
No, fuck
none
off!
of that.
Can't be doing this. Wait, she's from Essex, so not quite that accent, but whatever.
Ugh,
Um,
I can't. I wouldn't
let's
know how to
not.
do that.
Well, no, let's
We
not
mustn't.
offend. We
We
mustn't.
mustn't.
We mustn't.
We mustn't.
Uh, yeah, I wonder if she's to be fair. I read that headline and thought, oh, she's gonna be one of these like parents that hate gaming and all things good. But I actually and then I thought about it. I was like, to be fair, she like got him his visa sorted and flew out to New York with him for a gaming tournament. Like although that quote makes her sound like she's not that supportive, any parent that flies their like 15-year-old kid out to a gaming tournament on the other side of the world is pretty fucking supportive. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I mean, I think the interesting thing about this uh, is I think this is definitely like a really cool story because when you see the kids actually win, I've kind of got this preconceived notion in my head, and we'll talk about this in more in depth next week because I've been following it um quite a bit. What with Ninja moving to Mixer,
mm,
uh, the Fortnite community sort of as a whole, I've had like a preconceived notion of it due to what it's like on Twitch, and it doesn't seem to really be like that at all. Like when this kid won, he wasn't like ultra cocky, like, yeah, this is like my first winnings, yeah, I'm super pleased, blah 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 blah. He was like, this is my world is upside down right now. Like,
Yeah. I think his mum said like, because the BBC like spoke, the interviewer said like, so what do you think he's gonna, how are you gonna help him like manage his money? He was like, he's not a materialistic person, to be honest. He'll just spend it all on Uber Eats and just continue to play Fortnite, and that'll be
yeah,
fine by
like
him.
yeah, it's like the kid who came fifth won something like 100, like it was less, but it was still a massively significant amount of money.
More money
And
than I have, yeah.
yeah, and when he met his parents afterwards, they just couldn't handle it. They were like fully emotional and we don't really know what to do here. It was nice to see that there was no sort of sporting attitude, like like no traditional sporting attitude to what was happening. There was no like cockiness. There was like, I've just sort of played video games and now I'm here, and through an insane display of skill, I've earned more money than I know what to do with.
Yeah.
Like, which
It
is
is. It's also
incredible because they've put so much work in to earn
mm.
that amount of money. Like, and it makes you not actually blame some of the parents. Because if I was a parent, I mean, obviously I'm not a parent, so I can't really
Well,
comment,
we
but I
don't
feel
know
like,
that, do we?
I mean, I've kept it hidden.
Sorry, sorry that was inappropriate.
Um, I mean, I feel like if I was a parent and my 11-year-old child came up to me and said they wanted to be a professional Fortnite player, I'd go, no. Uh,
Yeah, like again, I was thinking the same thing. Like if
unless I could see they were extremely good. Like,
yeah,
I mean that's the difference, isn't it? Like, if your kid comes up to you and says, "I want to be a very good football, like I want to be a professional footballer," you go, "All right," but you don't really give a shit. But then
well, it's
if
also
some
it's a lot more difficult to gauge. Like if you're looking at someone who like, especially if you don't play games, it's very difficult. Like if you say like, oh yeah, I play Fortnite for 8 hours a day and I train and like, yeah, you can be a good Fortnite player, but it's much easier to tell if you like if you if you train to be a professional rower, for 8 hours a day. It's quite obvious that like the big arms and shoulders are going to give it away at some point. Where it's like it's much more difficult, and you like obviously you can actually physically time and like you you know what I mean? It's much
yeah,
easier to
yeah, yeah.
get like to gauge results of how good you are at a sport per se,
Well, because
rather than
usually most sports are a matter of speed. Like if
yeah, or like
like
yeah,
that's the difference, isn't it? That's how I was going to compare it. It's like if a kid says I want to be a professional footballer, like, and they're like what 13, 14,
mm,
and they're like super into it, and you kind of go, okay, you can sort of pursue that, but make sure you do your schoolwork first. And
mm,
then uh, and then on the other hand, you've got you've got the alternate dimension where they're practicing in an environment, and then one of the coaches says, "Yeah, your kid's special," like in a good way, by the way.
yeah.
Um,
I think
like,
I'm pretty sure I remember that conversation with Mr. Marshall and my mum.
oh, did you say you
Yeah,
were really special at football? He
he
said
said it
that
was a
about me
really
as well.
he
Why
said it was
didn't
a
we
really
pursue
special.
it?
He said it was really special when I did the high jump and I broke my nose because I leant forward and kneed myself in the nut.
Did you get over it
Um,
though?
no, I knocked it off. I was a
Oh
complete
shit.
disgrace. I also broke my glasses by doing a Superman dive over a horse thing at one point,
Yeah, but
which he
that
then then sellotaped. He did. Mr. Marshall didn't sellotape my glasses back together. He sellotaped them to my head.
good.
Like,
That's style though. I feel like you went down in style in the last one.
oh, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure.
But I mean that's the difference, isn't it? Like, it's, say someone wanted to be a good runner, and they run and they do like an insane like personal best. You're like, right, it probably might be a good idea for this kid to maybe pursue this because they're just so far like ahead of everyone else, like
Yeah,
in this format. But as you say, it's very hard to gauge with Fortnite or any
yeah.
esport really.
I mean, I did my EPQ, my extended project. That was it called. And I did that in sixth form, and I did it on our cyber should cyber athletes be considered as true athletes? And oh God, it was so long ago since I did that, but I can't remember what comparison I made. But I think if I was to do it again, one of the main comparisons I would make would be that what like I think I tried to define what is an athlete. Is it just an example of like dedication and like physical strength, or does it involve skill as well? Because if it involves skill as well, then that's a cyber
Well,
athlete,
to
isn't it?
me, I anyone who defines an athlete as having intense physical strength, to me, is really undermining what it means to be an athlete, and it's also undermining why we watch them as athletes. Um, like if to say that someone is strong, like I mean, even like let's take the ultimate example, a weightlifter. A
Mm.
weightlifter's ability to be, the best of like to be the best is their ability to lift a weight. But there's also the mental the like the mental strain, the mental ability to stay in a particular frame of mind that they also have to practice almost just as much as the actual physical training, and also
Yeah,
sticking
exactly.
also sticking to that regime.
I think
Um,
that's what I wrote about actually. Now, come to think of it, when I did my project, yeah, like it's the whole training and like it's the mentality of it that defines it, not necessarily just your
but
physical like
but
ability.
yeah, but that's in a environment where the test is simply a test of strength, even though there is also a massive psychological element to it. It's like people like let's say boomers who are really into football, when they hear about this sort of thing, like for example, when my mom heard about it, she was like, "That's crazy." Like she wasn't negative about it. She was just like, "I can't believe this is a thing." Like,
Mm.
um, but I feel like when you get like some boomer like sports fans who are like, "Yeah, this is ridiculous. Like this shouldn't be as lauded as they're just playing games." And they're like, "Right, well, what's the difference? Like this is a display of skill, like a proper display of skill. And when Messi scores a goal, that's also a display of skill. What's the difference?" And they're like, "Yeah, but they're actually running around on a field and not sitting at a computer." Right, so you're saying
Mm.
that your enjoyment of sport comes from the fact that it's physical and not from the skill based aspect.
Mm.
And that's not true at all. Like people watch football and basketball for the plays. They don't watch it to watch like 22 fit men running around,
I
physically
mean,
able to do so, unless they
I
have
mean,
grinder. So
I was going to say there's a very specific group of people that will watch football just for that, but
I mean, I
yeah,
mean, true, but do you see what I mean? It's like there's
I do
there's
see what you mean. Yeah,
there's always that point made of like, yeah, but this is physical and this isn't. And I think physical sport is very important because physical health is very important.
it
But
depends on the sport as well, because like obviously, as you say, weightlifting, you are watching it like to watch them physically exert themselves. Same for I guess sprint, like 100-meter sprints. Like
yeah,
you are watching like Usain Bolt exert every last bit of chicken nugget that's left in him.
yeah,
Like
it's
that's not a race joke, by the way.
yeah, but
That's
yeah,
a
yeah. Can we? That is not a race joke. Usain Bolt
it,
genuinely ate chicken nuggets before his race when he got the world record.
exactly. Yes, I'll
Don't
find the
cancel
clip
us.
on.
Don't
Don't
cancel us. It's
cancel
only
us,
episode
please.
9. It's going to be episode 70, isn't it? When we've got like 200k subs and they're going to come back to this and we're going to get cancelled.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
It's gonna be the James Gunn of, well, by the time that if we ever reached episode 70, it'll be 2077 anyway.
Clip
So
it. But I
um,
mean, but that's kind of my main like point of it is that's always a thing that's said. It's always like this is physical. This is someone sitting on their ass, and I'm like, yes, but you're not watching this sport because it's physical. You're watching this sport because of the display of skill and teamwork involved, which is why
mm,
I'm watching this esport, and that's why I'm playing Overwatch, and that's why people are playing whatever esport they're playing, so they can
in
have a show of skill that
yeah,
if you understand that display of skill, that's also a problem, is people who aren't into esports can't interpret what they're seeing as skill,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
also a
That's what I mean.
problem.
Like, yeah. Mm. In a final whinge about boomers, can we discuss the use of the term e-gaming? Because I was watching.
Why is this a
Uh,
thing? What?
no, I was watching. I flicked on BBC Breakfast and then it finished. I went over to the Victoria Derbyshire show or whatever the fuck it's called because they had a thing about the Fortnite World Cup and
What is
the
this?
woman that was
1890? I've never even heard of this show. The
neither had
Victorian
I till this.
Derbyshire show. Do they
No,
show sheep?
Victor.
Is it a village fete?
Victor. I think it's called. Is it Victor? Hang on, let me Google Victoria Derbyshire. Oh, I can't even type now. Yeah, Victoria Derbyshire
Sounds
is.
like a
She's
sounds
a
like a
journalist.
sounds like a country show with pies and gravy.
It's like I feel like it's kind of like BBC Breakfast. It's like the vibe I got from it was it was Loose Women meets BBC Breakfast.
Oh wait, is it
Um,
Lorraine Kelly but not?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And they were interviewing someone about Fortnite and the World Cup, and they got them to explain what Fortnite was in like 2 minutes or something. But she said like she asked a question, but used the term e-game. She was like, "E-gaming is on the rise right now, isn't it?" And I was like, "Oh, is that a word that people use, like
No,
e-gaming?"
I've never heard e-gaming.
I never. Well, I think I've heard it, but only from boomers. So maybe it's just a boomer thing.
Actually, I tell a
Um,
lie. I saw a story the other day where someone who clearly wasn't a gamer used the term e-gaming in reference to like online apps for your phone.
I can understand that, like online gambling and stuff. I guess that does make sense. But in terms of like mainstream, like well, what I would consider to be mainstream, like video games, I wouldn't
What's
ever
the
call it
E? Just electronic
e-gaming.
gaming.
Yeah, well, that's just game. Well, well, yeah, I guess there's like board games and shit that counts as gaming too, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. It was just it threw me off, and I was like, oh, that
yeah.
sounds very boomery.
I've never heard that, and I don't see the reason for that term to exist because there's already like esports has existed since like the early '90s, and everything that needs a term already has a term that we can use. We don't need
Yeah.
media outlets to just create new terms for them to understand. If they actually did their research, which they don't, because they don't care, they'd know these things had terms, and then they would popularize the
Some
terms.
places care. I got
Some
asked to go
places
on.
do, but then
Did I?
Josh, every single interview I've ever seen, which is like, "What is Fortnite?" They ask that because they don't know.
No, they asked that because I think journalists are they're in a difficult position when they do that, especially at the BBC because their audience is so broad that they're not asking it for themselves; they're asking it for their audience.
Yeah,
Did I tell you I got asked a few weeks ago to go on BBC Five Live and discuss E3,
yeah, yeah.
but they chose someone else just for diversity's sake of like getting a group of people that like enjoy different things, which is fair enough. That's fine. But they asked if they could keep my details for like further things. They rang me up on the morning that I was going to QuakeCon at 9 a.m. and they because I slept in because I this on the Saturday I'd been to I got back late because there was some drinks after the press day, so I got back late and I had a bit of a lie-in. The phone call woke me up at 9 a.m. and it was someone from Five Live saying, "Hi, we I hear we've rung you up before. Would you be able to come on and do like a phone-in thing and explain what Fortnite is in 2 minutes in about 5 minutes time?" And I was like, "What? I've just woke up. I don't even know what Fortnite. I don't know where I am right now.
I
Like,
don't know
so
what's a fortnight. Have I
what
been
is a Fortnite?"
I've been asleep for a fortnight.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm really sorry but like if I'd have been awake for like more than an hour, I would have been able to like write something up and get it condensed down in. But to write up like or to even think about how you summarize Fortnite in 2 minutes in a 5 minute thing to go on like the live rate, I was like, I'm really sorry. You'd be best off if you found someone else who like actually knew what they were talking about and had been awake for longer than 30 seconds. Um, but yeah, anyway, that was. I mean, if I was in that position where someone said, "What is e-gaming?" I was like, I don't know. I've never heard the fucking term. Like, um. Anyway, I think that's about. Well, I think we'll wrap up that podcast there. We've been going for about 2 hours 15 minutes. That's not bad actually. We've got everything that we wanted to say out
Yeah, it's
on there.
solid.
That's solid that one. So, in terms of shameless plugs, I'm away, so I mean, obviously, keep an eye on the National Student for my words on Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein Youngblood. I'm away in Northern Ireland for a week, going over to look at some Game of Thrones stuff. So I'll be back to record next Friday. I might take my Switch, but I might not be playing much, so it could be a quiet one from me next week. Have you got anything coming up or?
No, I don't have anything coming up, but I do. I mean, we mentioned some topics this week that will carry over next week, so we'll have a show. I mean, we'll at least have a show, and who knows what? I mean, we say it every week. Who knows what will happen between now and the next show? Because something
Ninja
always
moves to
happens.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't. I
Speaking of
mean,
Mixer,
no one saw that coming, did they? Like,
no, I mean I didn't. I mean they've updated Mixer. I had a quick look because you can like redeem a free sub to Ninja if you log on like right
yeah,
now. Um, I did that. They've updated Mixer a lot since I used to stream on there back in the Beam days before Microsoft
yeah.
bought them.
I never put two and two together that Beam was Mixer.
No, yeah, that Microsoft bought them out and changed it to Mixer. And I used to stream on Beam. I used to multi-stream between Twitch, YouTube, and Beam, and it was very bare bones back then. But I went on and had a look. They've updated a lot. I think I genuinely might because I don't really. I have an audience on YouTube, but not really very much on the streaming side of things, and I have a basic audience on Twitch, but not
I
very
mean,
much. So I feel like I could, if
I
I were to start anywhere, Mixer might actually be a
I
genuinely
would
good idea at this
lie.
point,
I would be lying if I didn't say that Mixer, as a new streamer, is looking kind of tantalizing right now. Just to
especially
test
since
it.
Ninja's just moved there. Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. Like it seems like I mean it's always been the small streamer platform. Like you go on it
It's always
and
been like like every single piece of Microsoft interface. It's like follow us on Mixer, and I'm like no, because no one uses Mixer. But I
well,
mean, Ninja being there validates it, doesn't it?
It's funny because since the news got announced, um, people keep asking Moon Moon, what's your opinion on Mixer? And he says, right,
Mm.
let's look at the number one channel on Mixer right now. And he's like, oh look, it's a Monster Cat 24/7 live stream of music with 90 people watching it. And that's what it is. That's probably what
Yeah,
it is right now if Ninja's not live. It's like
that's
it's
probably true.
it's a 24/7 Monster Cat radio. It's kind of a dead web. Well, I mean, it's dead in comparison to like YouTube or Twitch, but
Mm.
like who knows what
But
will
I mean,
happen to it.
if anyone's looking to sort of like maybe start up their own community, I mean, the amount of tools that they've got on there, and I mean, there's a lot of Twitch news recently in terms of like how that shit's managed. Um, but
Yeah, I
it,
mean,
I mean,
if Twitch continues, I mean, yeah, like if Twitch continues to get more and more kind of not scandalous, but like
it
just
feels very
fucked up.
dramery at the minute.
Well, it just feels like it's reaching YouTube levels of there's a problem, and Twitch either don't know that it exists because they're so far removed from everything, or they just refuse to acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then when enough people say, "Hey, this is a problem," they go, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize," but they definitely did.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's a topic for next week.
Yeah,
We can dig deep on that next week if there's anything relevant. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you want to, if you could absolutely mangle that follow button on
mangle it,
Spotify or
frag it.
whatever like podcast listener device thingy that you use would be much appreciated. If you want to send us any feedback, the feedback last week was that it was a little bit quiet. I will do my best to make sure that it's much better balanced this week. If you want to send any feedback or any questions or anything, send them to either at Joshy Boyles, not at Joshy Boyles 2. I got my original handle back this week. That was another cool thing.
Oh,
It's just at Joshy Boyles or at Zanzibar Crumpet. Owen always needs more people to whinge at on Twitter, so it'd be much appreciated.
I only whinge
Yeah,
because I don't have enough followers. If you follow me, I'll become wholesome. Follow me.
I don't.
Follow me.
I don't follow any. Oh no, I'm a Jenny Stan account now because she's
Yeah,
got
yeah.
protected tweets. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thank you very much for watching or listening, even, and we'll catch you next week. See you later.